They say the past always finds a way to resurface, and for Queen Camilla, long-hidden secrets have suddenly come to light. In a shocking moment, the Queen couldn't hold back her emotions, bursting into tears after being caught destroying Princess Diana's letters. A tense incident that has left the public buzzing and raising countless questions about the royal family dynamics. Let's dive into the details of this explosive event right now. How will Camilla handle the consequences after being caught destroying Princess Diana's letters? Do any of you follow this story? If yes, leave a 1, if not, comment 0. Don't forget to enjoy the video and show your support by hitting that subscribe button. One day, the hopeful 20-year-old girl Diana Spencer walked into the palace with a heart full of dreams. She never imagined that her life would become a royal tragedy that would break the hearts of the world. When she accepted Prince Charles' proposal, Diana believed that love would be the shield to protect her from all storms. But what Diana didn't know was that behind Charles's cold smile was a shadow far too large: Camilla Parker Bowles, a woman from Charles's past who had never truly left him. As Diana did her best to be a devoted princess, a loving wife, and a gentle mother, Camilla quietly remained in whispered phone calls, tender glances, and the emotional distance Charles brought home every evening. With the pure heart of a young girl, Diana gradually realized that she was not just Charles's wife. She was the third party in her own marriage. And from that moment, a silent war began between a suffering young woman and a more seasoned woman. This battle not only took away Diana's youth and trust, but also buried the dream of a fairy tale royal life she had once longed for. Although fully aware of the unusual relationship between Prince Charles and Camilla, Diana chose not to expose the scandal or make everything public. She didn't do this out of weakness or fear, but because Diana still believed in second chances, believing that Charles would return to her. She held on to the hope that what they once had could be salvaged. But love cannot be sustained from one side alone, and loyalty, when nurtured by just one person, will eventually collapse under the weight of betrayal. Diana didn't scream, but she wrote. She sent tear-stained letters, not begging, but delivering stern warnings. "I know who you are in my story with Charles, and I will not remain a silent victim forever." One of the letters sent to Camilla was rumored to have said, "I know what's going on. I'm not stupid. I see how he looks at you. I hear the whispers, but don't forget I am still his wife, and I will not leave quietly." These letters caused both Charles and Camilla to worry, but Diana never made them public. Not because she was afraid, but because she wanted to protect the last shred of dignity of the man she once loved. Diana did not let the pain consume her completely. She kept writing each letter a wound, a challenge, a declaration that she would not be erased from her own life, even though she was the third party. One of the final letters she wrote, filled with a hollow tone, said, "If one day I disappear, remember that I lived and fought in silence for my children." Though no one knew whether Camilla ever responded to these letters, it was clear they made her uneasy. Diana, despite her pain and struggles, refused to let her life be buried in silence. Diana once confessed, "I tried, I loved, I forgave, I endured, but I was never blind." These words now echo like a prophecy, resonating long after Diana's tragic death in the car accident that shook the world. Her voice has fallen silent, but her letters remain standing as vivid proof of a woman who fought quietly, resiliently, with an immense sense of dignity. But what if I told you that Queen Camilla was caught in the act of something suspicious? She was destroying the final handwritten letters of Princess Diana. The flames in the palace fireplace consumed a silk ribbon, briefly revealing Diana's unmistakable handwriting, and then all that remained was ash. A royal assistant stepped in, and everything changed. Camilla, cold and alone, was still in the room holding a bundle of old letters tied with a pale blue silk ribbon. The room carried a faint scent of lavender, but there was something else, the smell of smoke. Only a few minutes later, the flames licked at the pages, curling them up and blackening them. The paramedic only caught a brief glimpse, but it was enough to recognize the unmistakable scrawl of Diana's handwriting, a fleeting signature symbolic of her, and then it all vanished into ash. No one spoke, and then Camilla whispered something, but her gaze filled with guilt and sorrow made everyone stop. That night, whispers began to rise throughout the halls. One voice cut through the crowd. Queen Camilla just erased Diana's final truth. Those letters had been stored within the palace, but now they were destroyed. Why and who had ordered this silence? The answers remain unclear. The public was in an uproar, and the memory of Diana may never be the same again. Believed to have been written between 1990 and 1997, these letters were deeply personal and informal. They came from Diana's heart, not scripted, but rather her true thoughts and emotions shared only with her closest confidants. Some of the letters contained Diana's pain, as she felt abandoned, increasingly fearful of losing her son to a system she didn't trust. One line rumored to be among them reads, "They are shaping William in their image, not mine." Another letter is said to have expressed Diana's fear that history would be rewritten without her voice. These letters might also contain hints hidden audio recordings that have never been made public. One document is believed to include a direct warning from Diana stating, "Until my voice is forgotten." Many believe she was alluding to Camilla in those words. The tension surrounding Diana's private writings is now clear, and we can't help but wonder, why were these letters never given to William and Harry? Who caught Camilla in the act of destroying these letters, and who exactly uncovered the truth? A palace assistant tasked with retrieving Queen Elizabeth's memorial diary returned to Camilla's office early. The door was unusually ajar, and the strange, foul odor from a jar changed everything. Something much larger was being concealed, and the truth could be darker than we imagined. Strange smoke billowed in the air as Camilla stood frozen, holding a few torn envelopes and a half-burnt letter. She quickly jolted defensively as if caught in the act. Her face was pale, her voice low, and it said that she murmured, "This is not what it looks like." But the damage was undeniably clear. The ash still smoldered in the fireplace. The assistant didn't ask anything more. They simply left in silence. Within 48 hours, they were transferred to Balmoral without notice, stripped of palace access, and given no explanation. They just disappeared. Sources close to the royal family suggest that this transfer wasn't accidental, but an order from very high up. But the question remains, why was this to protect Camilla or to safeguard what was in those letters? Camilla didn't sign the transfer papers, but everyone knew that the decision came from the highest authority. Questions swirl around why Camilla burned those letters, why now, and whether this was an act of closing the past or a political move to bury the truth. If anyone within the palace knew about this, they may have silently allowed the act, or worse, they could have been behind it. Diana's voice still looms even after her death in 1997. Her voice never truly faded. From interviews to secret tapes she left behind, echoes that never ceased to resound. But it is the private, painfully honest handwritten letters that many believe hold the untold truth. Those letters were said to have revealed Diana's fear that her story would be distorted after her passing. She expressed concerns about how Charles's inner circle had reshaped her image even while she was still alive. Diana called it a palace rewrite, a place that could one day erase her role, both as a mother and as the woman she feared the most. She worried that William and Harry would be exploited within a system she didn't trust. Another letter is believed to have confirmed these fears about history being rewritten without her voice. Some of the letters even highlighted how deeply William felt her pain, and Diana feared that one day their relationship would be severed. Diana was never afraid to challenge the institution, and even in her letters she warned about the royal establishment's desire for control. One quote remains locked behind closed doors: "I am the complexity they cannot control." She wrote that she wanted to be remembered, not misrepresented. If those words were preserved, they could become Diana's final statement. But if they were destroyed, who would benefit from hiding this truth? One question still lingers. Is this a personal matter for Camilla, or a larger political move? Camilla has always walked a fine line within the royal family, from mistress to queen consort. Her path has been marked by public disdain and private strategies. When rumors emerged that she had destroyed Diana's letters, many wondered if this was her final attempt to silence the past. Royal sources claim that Camilla has long felt haunted by Diana's presence, not only in portraits or media articles, but also in Charles's memory. He had never truly let her go. An insider shared, the letters could represent much more than words. They could be ghosts she couldn't escape from. Others suggest that Camilla's motives might be far more calculated. If the letters painted a dark picture of Camilla, or revealed the truth about Charles's behavior in their marriage, it could skew public perception, especially now that Camilla has solidified her role as queen. One source claimed that she feared a loud narrative war and took action. But it's unclear whether Charles was involved or if he simply turned a blind eye to what was happening. Some believe he knew about the letters but couldn't face what they revealed, fearing the damage not just to himself, but to the entire royal institution. Those observing within the palace couldn't help but wonder whether this was an emotional breakdown or a carefully calculated move. If it was a strategy, who else knew about it? The way silence gradually enveloped the palace now speaks volumes more than ever. People began to fear the royal family, with anxiety spreading quickly. After the firefighters began whispering cautiously, the palace doors were bolted even tighter, and questions about the fire were swiftly dismissed. Most notably, staff were warned not to mention those letters for the sake of the crown. A palace insider revealed that a separate fire report had been submitted. The inspector noted that unusual materials, neither wood nor kindling, but wax-sealed parchment and leftover ribbons were found. This isn't just someone burning notes. He is said to have remarked, "This is a deliberate act." Charles reportedly shocked, but instead of confronting Camilla, directly withdrew. Some engagements were canceled, and the source claims he told his assistant, "It's over, let's move on. No investigation, no accountability, just silence." Then the higher courts tried to prevent the story from spreading. They feared that public trust would collapse, but the news quickly spread. One question echoed through the old stone corridors of the palace: who saw the letters before they were burned? It was this cover-up, not the fire, that they feared. If this scandal was being concealed to protect the monarchy, what else could be buried next? So as all efforts to conceal the truth seem powerless against its spreading, the big question still remains unanswered. Who was truly behind the destruction of these letters? Will more dark secrets stay hidden, or will they eventually be exposed to the light? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe to stay updated on the next developments. This story is far from over, and we'll continue to follow it closely. When the news reached Althorp Diana's ancestral home, it didn't come through an official palace statement, but rather through whispers passed from one assistant to another. The Spencer family's outrage was impossible to contain. Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, immediately reacted with intense anger. Family sources revealed that Earl Spencer was furious asserting that the letters were not the property of the royal family, but of Diana, and were an emotional heirloom for the family. They were not political artifacts. It didn't take long for the Spencer family to launch their own audit at Althorpe. Every letter photograph and private recording Diana had entrusted to her family was now under intense scrutiny. A cousin is said to have remarked, "If they can burn her truth, then they can erase anything else." Behind the silence from the palace, there was no apology, no explanation, only smoke echoes and silence. It was this that transformed pain into outrage. A Spencer relative said, "We trusted them, we were wrong. This is not just destruction, it's betrayal." Charles Spencer is said to have told a close friend that if the monarchy believed Diana's story had ended with just one fire, they might have miscalculated. Now, Diana's bloodline demands answers. The question still hangs in the air. Did William and Harry know about the letters before they were destroyed? The answer, according to insiders, is heartbreaking. They weren't even warned. William is said to have known about the existence of the letters, but he couldn't bear to learn from an assistant that he had never read them. The intense pain came from the fact that those writings were part of his mother's memory. To learn that they had been burned without his knowledge was a crushing blow. Harry's reaction was much more intense, distancing himself from the royal family. He often spoke of Diana's letters as the only way she could communicate with them. It's reported that Harry was furious, feeling betrayed once again. Neither of the two sons was informed in advance, no calls, no messages, only silence. And now, with the truth still smoldering in the ashes, both brothers are faced with a painful choice. Harry has always stood between two worlds, one with family and the crown, the other with his feelings for his mother. The pressure to protect the crown, especially with William, the future king, weighs heavily on him. The gloves may have been removed, and she wrote those things for us. Now they are lost, and we no longer have a voice. Prince Harry's close friend relationships with Charles and Camilla have become severely fractured. All of this seems to point to someone long forgotten. A woman who once protected those letters, Edith Travers. Edith Travers was the royal archivist dedicated to cataloging Diana's letters for over a decade. She was the protector of those letters' secrets, working under strict confidentiality. However, when she suddenly retired without a farewell, concerns about changes within the palace began to emerge. Particularly when Camilla requested private access to Diana's archive, Edith opposed. And then she vanished. Even more unsettling was the last email she sent to a former colleague. "Be careful, Diana's truth is in danger. They are not protecting her memory. They are erasing it." After retiring, Edith declined all interviews, and her house in Wiltshire fell silent with no one able to reach her. The curtains were always drawn and calls went unanswered. Did Edith know something? Did she suspect that someone had planned to destroy the letters, or was she pushed out to make things easier? Regardless, one thing was clear. She believed something was about to happen, and she didn't trust that the palace would stop it. She had warned them, but they ignored her. And if Edith Travers held a copy or had knowledge of a second archive, the palace might not have destroyed everything. This makes her the key to what is about to unfold. If one letter still exists, it could shed light on everything. The public's reaction was intense. Anger, sorrow, and suspicion spread rapidly. When news of the letters leaked, hashtags like Justice for Diana and hashtag When Letters Not Ash began to explode across social media platforms. TikTok and Reddit users started dissecting interviews, and discussions about conspiracies and timelines continued non-stop. Candles at Kensington Palace began to flicker as the public not only mourned Diana, but also grieved the truth they felt had been stolen from them. Royal watchers and historians couldn't contain their emotions. One television commentator called it an act of historical sabotage, while another wrote, "Camilla has turned the fireplace into a symbol of fear." Emotional tributes flooded in, with some people even admitting they weren't alive when Diana passed. Her story continued to shake the world. Petitions began collecting over 500,000 signatures in just 3 days, demanding transparency and a full investigation. People wanted all remaining letters to be made public. Protesters appeared outside Buckingham Palace holding signs that read, "Her truth deserves more than a memorial fire." Royal groups also planned marches and public readings of Diana's surviving words. Against this backdrop, trust in the monarchy fractured even further. This was not just a public issue, but a major crisis. Diana represented compassion, rebellion, and honesty. If her final words were erased, what message would that send? Diana spoke from the heart, and now they wanted her silent. Those attending the prayer vigil at Kensington while people cried out for answers found one man silent. His silence might speak more than words ever could. Was Charles protecting Camilla, or was it Charles himself who was keeping quiet? Charles's public appearances have always been rare, and he never directly faces the press. There is even no information about his sons. Behind that silence is a storm of speculation. People wonder, what does his silence really mean? Within the palace walls there are whispers that Charles is deeply conflicted. He is not just a king, but also a husband, a father, and especially a man who once called Diana the love of his life. Yet when it comes time to protect her memory, he remains silent. Some believe Charles is protecting Camilla out of loyalty, while others think he feels guilty. Those close to Charles say the atmosphere within the family is extremely tense. William is said to have distanced himself, even canceling several private meetings with his father. Meanwhile, Harry, with his anger and detachment, is reportedly considering a public statement. He wants to protect the truth. An insider revealed that while Charles didn't order the destruction of the letters, he also didn't prevent it from happening. His failure to act could cost him more than public support. It could tear apart the unity within his own family. Charles has faced an important choice to speak out in defense of Diana or remain silent, and he chose silence. The palace is now in full damage control mode, with press staff working overtime and lawyers standing by behind closed doors. New public relations strategies are being drafted, one of which includes a neutral and carefully worded public statement devoid of emotion. Another plan even suggests putting William forward to help quell the rising storm. However, insiders warn that William will not lie no matter the reason. While Charles's silence has caused a rift between him and the heirs, the question remains, are there more of Diana's letters? Diana was known to be very cautious, often copying her sensitive writings under legal advice. She had backup copies of some letters and sent them to trusted allies abroad. Another collection is rumored to be stored in a safe in Switzerland under a false name. A batch may have even been handed over to her personal lawyer, who retired in the early 2000s. Rumors about the final letter Diana wrote just days before her fateful trip to Paris have drawn significant attention. A royal historian has claimed to have seen a copy of this letter. Not only emotional, but the letter also carries political weight. Diana named specific individuals and connected various events. If this letter is authentic, it could change royal history. The question now is someone holding on to it? And if so, how much longer until the world sees it? This is a surprising truth. Insiders suggest that a royal family member may have quietly sought out those letters, unsure whether to destroy them or make them public. The firestorm may have silenced one voice, but not all of them. A former royal reporter believes the truth hasn't completely vanished, it's just waiting to rise from the ashes. Diana's legacy is once again at the forefront. But this time, it's not just in memories, documentaries, or charitable foundations. This time, it's on the battlefield of truth, confronting memory and facing the monarchy. At the center of the firestorm stands Queen Camilla, her image unraveling under the weight of actions that could haunt the crown for generations. Royal insiders say the palace is working to control the damage. Despite Camilla's plummeting approval ratings and increasingly harsh headlines about her, the palace remains silent, hoping the noise will eventually die down. However, Diana's voice proves difficult to silence, and the question now is, what will those closest to Charles do? Some speculate that he is preparing a quiet memorial, while others quietly wonder if Charles might be holding on to a personal collection of letters he has yet to read. One day he might share everything he knows. One day he might speak out expressing his sorrow for the second time, but this time for Diana's voice. Those within the royal family close to Prince William and the monarchy itself, in an era where institutions are collapsing and the public is awakening, will have to make a decision: silence or accountability. For the millions who love Diana across the world, only one question remains, echoing louder than any royal statement. Why was Diana's voice treated as a threat? The letters may have vanished, but the fire they sparked continues to rage. Public trust is slowly eroding. The royal family now faces a major crisis. Although Diana's voice was silenced by the flames, it refuses to be quieted. Will the truth ever be revealed? And if the dark conspiracies Camilla once concealed in the shadows of the palace are brought into the light, how will the world react? Will the crown remain on Camilla's head, or will it become a symbol of betrayal and manipulation, marking a dark chapter in the history of the British monarchy? No one can forever conceal the darkness under the light of justice. Camilla ascended the throne not through the love of the people, but via a controversial path built on the pain of another woman, Princess Diana. If the missing documents, confessions, or recordings that Diana is believed to have left behind truly exist, could the day when Camilla loses everything come sooner than she expects? Not just the crown, but her reputation, respect, and place in the hearts of the British people will be at risk. The question remains, will the public forgive Camilla? Will history view her with sympathy, or will Camilla become a living symbol of an era where lies and temporary power triumphed over truth? Only time and William can answer this question. But one thing is certain: if the truth comes to light, the shockwave it causes will not only shake Buckingham Palace, but also rewrite the legacy of a woman once seen as a replacement, but who was never truly a queen in the hearts of the people. So just when everything seemed to be settling down, a bombshell truth explodes, forcing the entire royal family to face questions with no clear answers. Will this incident plunge Camilla into an even bigger crisis? And will the public show mercy or criticize her for her past actions? Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the next developments. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this shocking event? We'll see you in the next video. Make sure to stay tuned. It's a ring, but not just any ring. It once rested on the hand of a royal icon, a woman who made the entire world stop and take notice, Princess Diana. And now it lives in a completely different place, tied to a story few truly understand. Years later, the ring quietly reappeared, subtle yet heavy with meaning, on the hand of a future daughter-in-law. No one asked why, but William did speak. He didn't choose the ring just for its beauty, but because it was the only way to keep his mother, the one he lost, present for the most important moments of his life. In the world of royalty, where emotions are buried beneath carefully crafted masks, where every glance is watched, and every whisper echoes behind ancient palace walls, there came a moment of raw, genuine feeling. William spoke of the ring not just as an heirloom, but as a sacred connection to his late mother. So what is really happening behind the palace's closed doors? Leave a comment with the number 1 if you resonate with this story, or 0 if you feel differently. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next as we reveal all the secrets behind this powerful story. Carol Middleton, a woman always known for her composure and her protective role around Princess Catherine, has made a decision that defied everyone's expectations. Until now, she had rarely drawn attention at palace gatherings, always remaining quietly by her family's side without significantly interfering in important matters. However, this time, Carol made a decision that not even Queen Camilla could have predicted. According to sources, Camilla was completely taken by surprise by the move. In a rare and emotional moment, the Queen shed tears, a reaction seldom seen from someone who always maintains such a calm demeanor. This was not just a surprise for the family, but an event that forced the entire monarchy to confront powerful and inevitable changes. This change has raised significant questions about how power and influence are distributed within the royal family. Previously, Carol Middleton had always maintained a humble position, not getting overly involved in the royal family's major decisions, but this time her action has forced everyone to reconsider. Camilla's strong reaction, along with a notable change in the dynamic among royal family members, indicates that this shift is not just a family matter, but also affects the royal system as a whole. Carol's decision has not only altered the distribution of power, but has also forced the monarchy to face profound changes, transforming history from a series of old events into a process of self-renewal. Queen Camilla, who was officially crowned in May 2023, is a person well-versed in the politics of the court. For many years, she endured countless hardships and challenges to earn the respect of both the royal family members and the public. Camilla proved her resilient spirit by not only becoming the wife of King Charles III, but also rising to become Queen Consort, a title she worked tirelessly to achieve. However, the powerful emergence of Carol Middleton, Princess Catherine's mother, has made Camilla feel uneasy. Carol, who had always maintained a humble and quiet background role, has suddenly become a major influential figure within the royal family, which appears to have shifted the power dynamic Camilla had fought so hard to establish. Camilla's sense of authority is gradually eroding as Carol's influence begins to rise, and this has inevitably left the Queen feeling insecure. These changes could spark quiet struggles within the palace, where power must always be maintained and protected discreetly. These conflicts, though not public, will undoubtedly have a profound impact on the relationships within the royal family, especially as Carol Middleton increasingly asserts her influence, particularly over Princess Catherine and Prince William. This power shift could lead to a subterranean struggle that no one can foresee, altering a significant part of the royal structure. The power behind the throne at Buckingham Palace is no longer just a whisper among insiders. It has become an undeniable reality. Carol Middleton, a figure who was previously given little attention within the royal family, has suddenly emerged and created unexpected changes. Unlike those with prominent roles in the palace, Carol is not the star of the show, but rather someone who has always operated behind the scenes. However, despite not seeking the spotlight, she wields a powerful and profound influence, one that is not displayed through public gestures, but is spread in very subtle and skillful ways. More than just the mother of Princess Catherine, Carol Middleton is the one who has shaped the lifestyle and critical decisions in the lives of the royal family. She plays a crucial role in Catherine's parenting style, helping to shape the values that the royal family has preserved for generations. Furthermore, Carol is also the one who helps the royal family handle the immense pressures of public life, from how they face the media to maintaining their royal image. Through unpretentious methods, she has become a major influential figure for the royal family, especially as she acts as a silent mentor to the next royal generation, making Carol a powerful force that few had anticipated. The struggle between Carol Middleton and Queen Camilla has been quietly unfolding for over a decade, a subtle rivalry that no one officially acknowledges, yet it has clearly begun to influence major decisions within the royal family. Though they appear amicable on the surface, this competition is not just about power, but also about influence and position within the court. Carol, despite never seeking attention, has increasingly become a powerful figure of influence in the royal family, an influence that cannot be easily ignored. Camilla, with her extensive experience in court politics, seems to sense this shift and cannot escape the feeling that her own power is gradually being altered. This struggle reflects not only a rivalry between two individuals, but also a battle for influence and survival in a monarchy filled with complex rules. Everything seemed perfect on April 29, 2011, when the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton took place at Westminster Abbey. The entire world watched this splendid event, a day that marked a celebrated union. Carol and Camilla, despite their different roles, both appeared in the official family portraits, exchanged pleasantries, and stood near each other, creating a harmonious image as if they both shared in the joy of this momentous day. However, behind the smiles and polite gestures, tension simmered between them like an undercurrent in the palace. Although smiles were exchanged, everyone in the palace knew that the relationship between Carol and Camilla was never as simple as it appeared. The competition for influence and position within the royal family had already begun to form and shape decisions in the court, even though no one officially spoke of it. Carol Middleton, who comes from a modest background, with a flight attendant mother and a builder father, did not have the same privileges as members of the royal family. Instead, her success is a story of hard work, perseverance, and relentless effort. Together with her husband Michael, she built a prosperous family business from scratch. Not only did they provide a comfortable life for their 3 children, but Carol and Michael also dedicated themselves to giving their children the best possible education and loving care. Carol's success does not stem from family privilege, but rather is the result of tireless effort and a commitment to overcoming every challenge. This creates a stark contrast with the royal aristocracy, where lineage and heritage are valued above all else. While the royal family operates with its long-standing traditions and strict rules regarding dignity and birthright, Carol represents a different world. She is a model of perseverance and determination, not a product of hereditary privilege. This is evident not only in her personal success, but also in the way she raised her children and in how she gradually helped Princess Catherine adapt and thrive in a royal world where everything is dictated by long-standing rules and traditions. As the relationship between Prince William and Catherine deepened and their family grew closer, subtle changes in Carol's treatment at palace gatherings also became more apparent. It is said that she began to feel like a ghost in a space where she once held a significant position. The gatherings, once filled with welcome and warmth, now became alarmingly cold and formal. Carol was overlooked in conversations, and when she tried to join discussions, she was often left on the periphery of the room as if she didn't exist in those important moments. The warmth she once received from those around her at family gatherings outside the palace seemed to have vanished completely, replaced by a growing distance she could not explain. Camilla, born into a British aristocratic family and long accustomed to the rules and etiquette of royal life, seemed to thrive in the very world where Carol felt increasingly marginalized. With her solid family background and a natural ability to maintain her role within the palace, Camilla proved to be excellent at coordinating everything related to royal protocol and lifestyle. Meanwhile, Carol, despite her significant efforts to adapt and help build a close relationship with the royals, found herself not being fully embraced. This feeling became more apparent as tensions began to mount in the final months leading up to the royal wedding of Prince William and Princess Catherine. The differences between the two women became increasingly stark against the backdrop of the royal family preparing for a major event where power and influence were clearly being delineated. Carol had hoped to contribute personal touches from the Middleton family to the royal events, especially on this momentous occasion. She wished for small but meaningful gestures that would reflect the close bond and familial affection between the royals and the Middleton family. However, Carol's suggestions were sometimes dismissed without any discussion. Key decisions regarding the wedding, from the choice of flowers for the ceremony to the guest list, seemed to be handed directly to the royal household without her input. Contrary to her expectations, Carol could only smile quietly, offering no resistance, while control over the entire event and its decisions was held by others in the palace. After the wedding, the slights Carol experienced did not disappear entirely. Instead, they became more discreet, more subtle. Although not overtly expressed, Carol could still sense a shift in how the royal family members treated her. Her approach to her daughter Catherine, now the Duchess of Cambridge, had to change. Family visits that were once a joy became gradually restricted, growing shorter and less frequent. Holidays, especially occasions like Christmas, which were once a time for family reunions, were now superseded by royal duties at Sandringham. The pull between the two families became increasingly clear, the warmth of the Middleton family on one side and the rigid protocol of the royals on the other, and it began to weigh on Catherine, who had to navigate the changes in her role, especially after the birth of Prince George on July 22, 2013. Carol, with her boundless love and concern for her grandchildren, naturally stepped up ready to provide support as a dedicated hands-on grandmother. However, while Carol wanted to be involved in the family's life, royal officials had a different perspective. Royal staff were appointed and new routines were established, causing Carol's involvement to be quietly reduced. These decisions were not explicitly announced, but they diminished her influence at family events and simultaneously made her feel sidelined. It is believed that Queen Camilla supported the establishment of certain boundaries aimed at limiting Carol Middleton's growing influence within the royal family. By the time Princess Charlotte was christened at St. Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham in July 2015, these silent boundaries had become more defined, creating a quiet but meaningful distance. The ceremony, which was private and solemn, was held discreetly, and its quiet atmosphere further highlighted the differences in roles, status, and influence among the key figures within the royal family. After the ceremony, a prearranged plan organized by Carol Middleton, Kate's mother, was suddenly canceled without any official announcement. Interference from Camilla's camp prevented the plan from being carried out, leaving the Middleton family confused, disappointed, and hurt. This was seen as a notable turning point, a personal rejection disguised under the veneer of royal protocol. Everything unfolded behind palace gates far from the media's lenses, yet it partially revealed the underlying conflicts and tensions among the members of Britain's most powerful family. A silent struggle for power appears to be quietly unfolding among the influential women of the British royal family, a battle with no declaration of war, no smoke or fire, yet it is sharp and persistent. As Carol Middleton, once seen as a steadfast pillar of support and a significant influence on Prince William and his wife, quietly withdraws from the public spotlight. The question arises, is this an act of surrender to invisible pressures? Or is it in fact a subtle strategy, a step back to prepare for a smoother, more intelligent transfer of power? In the solemn atmosphere of a full royal gathering where everyone appears in elegant coats, sophisticated hats, and standard smiles, few notice that behind the scenes, an undercurrent is quietly churning. While all attention was focused on the newest member of the Cambridge family, an infant enveloped in the arms of royalty, a discreet but distinct change was taking place. Carol Middleton was no longer the busy mother on the front lines. Instead, she had begun a quiet journey almost like an intentional retreat. She gradually withdrew from public events, appearing less frequently on important holidays, yet her formerly diminished presence seemed to spread a subtle message within the royal family. Her silence was not a meaningless void, but perhaps part of a long-term strategy making space for the next generation, or proving that true power sometimes lies in a timely retreat, while silent changes can have a more powerful impact than any declaration. At first glance, many might assume that Carol Middleton's retreat is an act for the sake of overall harmony within the royal family, a humble gesture that is supportive, proper, and full of sacrificial spirit. However, for those who have closely followed her movements, it appears to be a quiet but strategic act of self-preservation. After years of striving to integrate herself as the composed, unassuming, yet ever-present mother of the future king's wife, Carol seems to have reached a threshold. She understands that in a world where power is demonstrated not just through words, but also through protocol and positioning at royal events, one's very presence can become a form of silent competition. Those close to the family quickly noticed a slow but unmistakable pattern of change. Carol no longer appeared as frequently at major occasions as she once did. Her once familiar position beside her daughter gradually became vacant, replaced by other influential figures within the royal inner circle. Invitations that were once almost a given have now become sparse and more noticeably selective. The shift was not loud or publicly explained, but it was clear enough for those familiar with her position and role to perceive a withdrawal not out of weakness, but perhaps as a shrewd move to preserve her identity, dignity, and standing in a space where every step is carefully calculated. Carol, once a flight attendant and the daughter of a builder and a shop assistant, never belonged to the aristocracy. She and her husband Michael built their company Party Pieces from scratch and worked hard to provide a good life for their children. But despite her success and devotion, she has never been fully accepted into the royal family since the moment Catherine married Prince William on April 29, 2011. Carol found herself navigating a space where her warmth and practical values were often met with opposition. For years, she balanced two very different worlds, one filled with family dinners and countryside walks, and another governed by hierarchy, ancient customs, and rigid protocol. As Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, took on more and more roles within royal duties, from formal events to charitable and diplomatic activities, the time and space available to her original family, especially her mother, Carol Middleton, gradually began to shrink. Carol's once warm and frequent presence in the lives of her grandchildren and daughter started to fade. While Catherine moved deeper into the heart of the monarchy's power, the natural influence of the mother, long seen as a spiritual anchor and reliable support, began to weaken not because of any change in affection, but due to the subtle constraints of an age-old institution with its own rigid order. The strict and sophisticated rules of the palace operate in their own way, and they do not always align with the traditional role of a grandmother in a modern family. The royal nursery, once a familiar place where a grandmother's caring hand might have been welcomed, is now under the close supervision of professional nannies appointed by the palace. Every schedule, from mealtimes and naps to playtime activities for the young princes and princess, is tightly controlled and coordinated by those holding royal responsibilities. Within this context, Carol's sincere help and affection, though once invaluable during the early years of the young Cambridge family, has gradually been sidelined or gently redirected to avoid conflict with established protocols. It is a quiet but painful process, where the role of a mother and grandmother must yield to the structure of an institution where personal feelings always come second to traditional principles. Even seemingly simple visits between mother and daughter or between grandmother and grandchildren have gradually become silent yet complex negotiations. Family reunions, once intimate and easily arranged, are now frequently rescheduled, shortened, or canceled at the last minute due to changes in the royal schedule. According to royal insiders, this is not merely an issue of class differences between a successful middle-class family and an ancient monarchy. It is a struggle over power, influence, and position within a system where every relationship is viewed through the lens of internal politics, protocol, and tradition. Queen Camilla, once the focal point of controversy for decades, is now central to maintaining and protecting the royal order. After years of facing public scrutiny and judgment, she has skillfully rebuilt her image while solidifying her position beside King Charles III. It is known that Camilla is a strong advocate for preserving traditional values and serves as an unofficial advisor to the king, encouraging him and close associates to uphold the palace's strict rules. As her position in the court has strengthened, her influence has expanded not only in form, but also in shaping the internal workings, including who can access and play a role in the lives of key members, especially the next generation. Camilla's attitude toward Carol grew increasingly cold. Some say she viewed Carol's influence over Catherine, and through her over William, as a subtle but growing challenge. The two women, both mothers fiercely protective of their children, found the distance between them widening over time. Carol Middleton began to make decisions that would gradually redefine her role within her daughter's royal world. Therefore, Carol Middleton is now quietly challenging Queen Camilla's authority from behind the scenes. After the fading smile and Carol Middleton's discreet yet meaningful silence, an important milestone occurred in the modern history of the British royal family, the celebration of Prince Charles's 70th birthday on November 14, 2018. This event was expected to be an evening of unity and tribute, held at Buckingham Palace with full ceremonial grandeur. It was a rare occasion that gathered many senior royal members, noble friends, and close relatives within the Windsor family. A lavish night filled with heartfelt speeches, carefully arranged photographs, and polite smiles spread out like a flawless performance. Amid this formal setting, Carol Middleton appeared as usual, graceful, discreet, and composed, a mother who sought no spotlight, always maintaining a proper distance from the halo surrounding her daughter Catherine, who had by then become an indispensable pillar of the monarchy. However, behind the dazzling lights and the carefully orchestrated elegance of that evening, a small moment took place, seemingly fleeting but carrying a silent weight enough to change the dynamic between two highly influential women in the royal circle, Queen Camilla and Carol Middleton. Amidst the ritual's gazes and meticulously calculated social interactions, an imperceptible power shift began to take shape. While Camilla, with her rising status, increasingly affirmed her central role in the court, and alongside the future king, Carol gradually retreated to the background, no longer the quiet companion, but beginning to be pushed to the fringes of the power circle. It was not a clear confrontation, but a subtle discord between two worlds, one linked to the institution and tradition, the other entering from outside the framework and trying to adapt. From that moment on, the balance of power between them started to tilt in one direction. In the magnificent setting of Buckingham Palace, where refined conversations always accompanied sparkling champagne and chandeliers reflected off gilded walls, Carol Middleton, as usual, maintained a polite, discreet, and gracious demeanor while mingling with guests. But behind that calm exterior was a very different atmosphere, tense and laden with meaning. According to some attendees at the celebration, as Carol walked past a group of distinguished guests, she happened to overhear a conversation between Queen Camilla and some of her longtime noble friends. Their topic revolved around the changing face of the British social elite, a subject that might seem lightly reflective but carried deep undertones, especially against the backdrop of new money families gradually gaining ground in the royal circle. With a familiar tone tinged with a hint of condescension, Camilla was said to have expressed cleverly yet sharply her views on the rise of new money, while emphasizing the irreplaceable importance of heritage, bloodline, and family foundations values that the old aristocracy have always regarded as the ultimate symbols. No specific names were mentioned, but within that loaded atmosphere, those within earshot, especially Carol, clearly felt the weight of the message. Though wrapped in polite language, Camilla's words were a covert cut, a message that needed no explicit naming yet was sharp and unmistakable. For Carol, who came from a middle-class background and built her family's success through hard work rather than inheritance, it was not just an indirect criticism, but a reminder that even though her daughter married a prince, heritage in the true aristocratic sense remains something no financial success can buy. For nearly a decade, Carol Middleton has persistently navigated a world she never truly belonged to, not for lack of effort, but because the invisible wall between two classes remained ever-present, solid, and cold. From the moment Catherine married Prince William in 2011, Carol's life entered an entirely different chapter. She was no longer just a successful middle-class mother, but became the mother-in-law of the woman destined to become a future queen. Throughout that time, Carol tread carefully, striving to bridge the gap between two vastly different worlds, one based on independence, hard work, and success accumulated day by day, and another that exists on inheritance, bloodline, and rituals maintained for centuries. She showed up at the right moments, kept herself in check, never too prominent, but always ready to support as a loyal and steady shadow beside her daughter. What do you think about Carol Middleton's journey? An ordinary woman stepping into an extraordinary world where she was never truly welcomed? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the untold stories behind the royal family. However, despite all those efforts, Carol was quietly pushed to the sidelines by the royal family, not through open rejection, but through silence, distance, and unspoken boundaries. She raised Catherine with compassion, grace, and resilience, qualities that later helped her daughter stand firm under the heavy pressures of royal life. Yet Carol herself was never truly recognized as a genuine part of the institution. The upper class may have tolerated her presence, a woman from the middle class who once ran a party-planning business, but full acceptance never came. Like an invited guest, never warmly welcomed, Carol existed in royal spaces with manners maintained out of protocol, not out of sincere belonging. Prince Charles's 70th birthday evening was not just an awkward moment for Carol Middleton. It became a quiet but profound turning point, an event that redefined her position within the ceremony-laden universe of the royal family. While applause echoed, heartfelt speeches were delivered, and cameras captured historic moments to Carol, it all seemed like a cold reminder that no matter her devotion to the family, no matter the silent sacrifices she had made over the years, she would always be seen as standing outside the door of power, an unnamed supporting character in a pre-written play. The royal circle could smile, shake hands, and display outward courtesy, but the invisible boundary between them and outsiders always existed, and that night it was emphasized more clearly than ever. Behind her calm exterior and seemingly gentle retreat, Carol Middleton quietly observed everything with remarkable awareness. Though no longer actively intervening or striving to maintain her place at royal events, as before, she maintained the habit of paying close attention to every small detail and the subtlest changes. According to sources close to the Middleton family, it was during this phase of strategic withdrawal that Carol developed a quiet but deliberate routine she documented and kept records of what happened around her, not to gossip, but to understand clearly how the game was being played. Last-minute cancellations of visits by the grandchildren, sudden unexplained changes in family plans, events she was once invited to but was now excluded from without a word, all were carefully noted by Carol as pieces of a larger puzzle. There was no public blame or outburst, but over time, Carol's notes began to reveal a clear pattern. A silent story about how influence within the palace was exercised. Not through commands, but through subtle adjustments, timely silences, neglect disguised as schedule changes, and absences wrapped in the guise of tradition. Each individual incident might seem insignificant, but when connected, they revealed a sophisticated system gradually shrinking Carol's space, not through confrontation, but through a soft, slow, yet persistent erasure of influence. And in that silence, Carol did the only thing she could to preserve a part of the truth she remembered. Not to retaliate, but to not forget. In March 2024, the long-standing tension between Carol Middleton and Queen Camilla suddenly became visible to everyone at Prince Louis's school concert in London. What was usually a space filled with laughter and warmth was now stifled by the clear divide between the two powerful women. Carol and Camilla stood apart on opposite sides of the room, exchanging no words, no polite nods, not even a fleeting glance. This coldness was not a spontaneous moment, but a deep manifestation of a fractured relationship that had long been brewing, expressed through years of silence, subtle refusals to acknowledge one another, and a quiet yet dramatic rivalry. In this setting, Prince William, acting as a mediator and diplomatic force within the royal family, tried to move between his two mothers, striving to break the wall of silence. He spent time conversing, easing the atmosphere, and creating light moments of interaction to narrow the gap between Carol and Camilla. Yet the mood remained undeniably heavy tension, lingering in every avoided gaze, and the invisible distance firmly maintained. This was not simply a momentary discord, but the culmination of years of meaningful silences, deliberate ignores, and a covert power struggle between two influential mothers, reflecting the battle for influence within the royal palace. Camilla, who endured a long struggle to be recognized and accepted within the royal family, now carries a firmer and more intense determination than ever to protect the royal lineage in the way she has always believed in and preserved. She understands deeply the value of tradition power and her position, and is willing to do whatever it takes to maintain the order she has worked hard to build. Camilla represents not just an individual, but a symbol of continuity within the long-standing royal system where power is passed down through generations, and every action carries the profound meaning of history and tradition. Queen Elizabeth didn't just see Catherine as William's wife, she saw her as a woman with rare and remarkable qualities. Catherine possessed a quiet strength, a natural grace, and a calming presence that deeply impressed the Queen. In moments of pressure or uncertainty, she remained composed, humble, and steady, never seeking attention, yet always rising to the occasion. It was these traits that led the Queen to trust her deeply and to believe she would be essential to the monarchy's future. Elizabeth viewed Catherine not only as a supportive partner to the heir, but as a central figure in the royal family's next chapter. That belief was made unmistakably clear in the will she left behind, which outlined a powerful and purposeful role for Catherine in the years ahead. Although Camilla maintained her outward composure and continued to appear gracefully at Charles's side, those closest to her could feel a shift beneath the surface. There was a quiet tension in her demeanor, like the calm before a storm, an unmistakable sense that something was building. Camilla wasn't retreating. Instead, she was quietly preparing for what might come next, determined to reinforce her role within the royal family despite growing challenges. Her every move became more deliberate, her words more measured. Behind the poised smile was a woman ready to defend her place, no matter how the royal landscape might change. On a cold morning of February 6, 2025, Carol appeared at the gates of Buckingham Palace with an image strikingly different from what people had known about her. There was no press, no crowd, no display. Just her walking forward with a small leather briefcase in hand, sharp eyes, and a demeanor that made even the security staff cautious. This was not a symbolic or ceremonial appearance, but a subtle declaration, a reminder that Carol Middleton was no longer just the woman behind the scenes. This quiet yet resolute presence marked a new chapter where silent power, care, and family legacy were placed above all, ready to step into the light without explanation or show. It was not a social call, but something entirely different. Inside the palace, where tradition conceals power struggles and silence masks, unease those who witnessed the meeting described it as a reckoning anthem. Carol was said to have brought a briefcase containing documents, not rumors or speculations, but records of names, dates, financial trails, property contracts, unexplained transfers, and subtle shifts in influence. These changes, accumulated over many years, have steadily pushed the Middleton family away from closeness to the royal family, creating an unmistakable pattern of exclusion. The documents Carol Middleton brought with her to Buckingham Palace were not simply personal notes or ordinary diaries. They were detailed and insightful outlines of internal struggles within the family, revealing little-known hidden corners of royal life. These pages not only recounted personal conflicts, but also demonstrated how long-standing traditions had been wielded as tools of power, not only to preserve the status and authority of certain individuals, but also to restrict access and isolate other family members. It was a sophisticated system where reverence and ceremony served as a facade for strategies of control and exclusion. Close observers of the royal circle believe these documents clearly charted the gradual shift in Carol Middleton's influence. Through each page, one could see an intentional yet inevitable withdrawal, as she was increasingly isolated from key royal activities and important decisions. This was not due to a lack of capability or will, but rather an underlying power structure where those holding authority used tradition and protocol as invisible walls of separation. These documents were not only evidence, but also a challenge, shining a light into the darkest corners of the court, revealing the silent but fierce battle for influence behind the palace doors. Camilla, who endured a long and challenging journey to secure her position within the royal family, has now become one of the strongest defenders and enforcers of tradition within the court. Over the years, she has not only affirmed her role, but also become highly vigilant toward any potential changes that might destabilize the balance of power. One of her greatest concerns is the increasingly close relationship between Carol Middleton and Princess Catherine, a bond not only between the two women, but also between Carol and Prince William, who stands in the line of succession to the throne. Moreover, Carol's constant and devoted presence as a grandmother in the lives of George, Charlotte, and Louis has made Camilla feel threatened by her growing influence within the royal circle. Camilla's suspicion and wariness did not manifest in loud or dramatic confrontations, but gradually transformed into a series of silent, cautious, yet determined actions. She actively guided and adjusted royal protocols in subtle but effective ways to narrow Carol's sphere of influence. Without public disputes or open confrontations, these quiet decisions slowly built an invisible wall, pushing Carol further away from the center of key events and major moments in the royal family's life. It was this skillful control that made Carol's position within the palace increasingly obscure, replaced by a subtle but binding distance. What Camilla hadn't anticipated was Carol's patience. While many might have responded with anger or reproach, Carol chose silence. Instead of confrontation or complaints, she quietly observed, missing no detail. These things weren't loud, but they accumulated like a journal of memories Carol had never once opened for anyone to see. By the time Prince Louis's school concert took place in March 2024, the fracture between them had become unmistakably clear. Carol and Camilla stood on opposite sides of the room. There was no greeting, no nod, no sign of familiarity between them. Only silence remained, a heavy, lingering silence, as if the weight of their shared past was echoing softly through the air. In February 2025, a private meeting was held at Buckingham Palace with no public announcements made. However, this event marked a clear turning point in the context of power dynamics and internal relationships within the palace. Immediately after the meeting, many senior staff, including some who had retired or stepped back from official roles, were summoned back, resulting in unexpected changes in the royal management and operations team. Important events were postponed or rescheduled abruptly, creating a tense and volatile atmosphere within the palace. Although Carol Middleton maintained her characteristic silence, refraining from interviews or public statements, her quiet actions had profound and far-reaching impacts within the royal circle. According to insider sources familiar with the palace's internal affairs, even Prince William has begun consulting advisors who were once very close to Princess Diana, a move both symbolic and subtle, yet by no means gentle or impartial. This clearly signals a strategic shift in how William is handling the family's internal issues, reflecting inevitable changes in power and influence. The meeting and its aftermath marked the beginning of a new phase where traditional forces' secrets and deep relationships will continue to shape the future of the British monarchy. While Queen Camilla continues her series of public duties with full grace and dignity, the atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace is gradually shifting subtly, yet profoundly. Behind the historical portraits framed in gleaming gold and the gleaming red-carpeted halls, a complex and mysterious story is unfolding. A quiet, smoldering storm shows no signs of abating, bringing inevitable changes to the structure of power and internal relationships. At the heart of this turmoil is Carol Middleton, a calm yet powerful woman who has silently stirred the palace's inner workings with her steadfastness and determination. What is even more remarkable is that while Carol stands at the center of this movement, the one leading and directing the next steps is none other than her daughter Catherine, the Princess of Wales. With an increasingly important role within the monarchy, Catherine not only inherits a status, but also symbolizes change and harmony between generations. The combination of Carol's quiet influence and Catherine's vision, soft yet resolute strength, has created a new force within the palace, promising to reshape the unwritten rules and internal operations of the British royal family in the years to come. The wave of power began as a tense whisper behind the ancient walls of the palace, gradually spreading and growing into a force more profound and enduring than ever before. Power once built on noble titles and traditional lines of succession is undergoing a marked transformation where new values, subtle influence, and refined strength begin to prevail. At the center of this shift stands none other than Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who has gradually become the symbol of a new generation of royalty where power derives not only from rank, but from wisdom, compassion, and nuanced influence in modern society. From the very moment she officially entered royal life on April 29, 2011, marrying Prince William in a magnificent ceremony watched by millions worldwide, Catherine became the focal point of relentless attention and scrutiny. Though warmly welcomed by the public with admiration and affection, she faced cold stares and cautious receptions within the power corridors of the aristocracy. The divide between two worlds, the vast realm of public reverence and the harsh, rigid courtly protocols, posed significant challenges for Catherine, yet also motivated her to prove her own unique status and influence within the royal family. Catherine has always been known for her elegant appearance, calm demeanor, and extensive education. However, her middle-class origins, along with the real success of her parents' company party pieces, have become a focal point that many within the aristocracy cannot help but notice sometimes, even with a hint of unease. They are uncomfortably reminded of a fact many would rather forget, that a commoner, someone without royal or noble lineage, has officially stepped into this exclusive world of power through her marriage to Prince William. Catherine's upbringing and character formation were not based on vast country estates or enormous ancestral wealth, but rather built on a foundation of strict discipline and solid family values, reflecting a practical spirit and relentless effort. Despite the passage of time, public and media interest in Diana has never waned. In recent years, Prince Harry has openly shared his struggles, especially the profound impact of his mother's death. In his memoir, Spare, published on January 10, 2023, Harry recounts personal experiences, his complicated relationship with his family, and the events that led him and his wife, Meghan Markle, to step back from their royal duties and leave the United Kingdom. Spare offers an intimate insight into Harry's life, depicting feelings of isolation and not belonging within his own family, as well as the challenges he faced growing up in the royal spotlight. The book's title alludes to the concept of the heir and the spare, reflecting the sense of being undervalued and alienated that Harry once endured. Kate meticulously learned during her early years when to speak, when to smile, and perhaps most importantly, when silence carries more weight and meaning than any spoken word. Through every event and encounter, she mastered reading the subtle signals of the palace, a place where words are sometimes just the surface of deeper messages. This understanding and restraint helped her not only maintain composure, but also build the image of a woman, both gentle and strong, one who knows how to wield silent power to influence without causing conflict. It is this clarity and sharpness that enabled Kate to overcome the challenges of the royal environment, which is notoriously harsh and filled with unspoken rules that are difficult to grasp. Throughout the years of raising Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, Kate became an attentive, quiet student of the mechanics of royalty, the art of managing ceremonies, traditions, and the complex relationships within the palace. Her engagements and important events were always meticulously prepared, never ostentatious but maintaining elegance and subtlety. Kate's public image developed slowly, yet surely closely tied to the role she assumed. Every step she took was carefully considered deliberate and never rushed, reflecting a woman who steadily asserts her distinct position in a world full of rules and competition. By 2023, Kate had firmly established herself as one of the most admired and respected figures within the British monarchy. Over the years, she not only built the image of a modern duchess, graceful yet resilient, but also became a symbol of stability and responsibility. However, it was only in early 2025, following a mysterious meeting at the palace involving Carol Middleton, that keen observers began to sense a new powerful and commanding energy gradually surrounding Kate. This change was not a sudden leap, but the result of a subtle, quiet transfer of power, discreet, yet profoundly influential. As Queen Camilla began to quietly retreat from the public spotlight, appearing less frequently at major royal events, Kate steadily stepped into key roles. There were no press conferences, no official declarations or grand announcements. She simply filled the space left by Camilla, gradually securing a central position both in the hearts of the public and within the palace itself. It is this silent but resolute ascent that has solidified Kate's standing like never before, heralding the dawn of a new era in the history of the British monarchy. And those are the never-before-seen moments, the deep emotions that even the royal family couldn't avoid. Prince William, with all the love and pain in his heart, couldn't hold back tears as he watched the special footage of his mother and brother Harry. Will these memories change the relationship between the royal family members? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, so you won't miss more emotional stories from the British royal family. Thank you for watching. This move was far more than a formal ceremony or superficial change. It clearly reflected the shifting power structure within the royal family. The relocation stood as a strong assertion of Kate's increasingly consolidated status, while also demonstrating the unwavering support Prince William has for his wife. The proximity of their offices signifies a close collaborative relationship, jointly managing and reinforcing their influence within the royal family, marking a new era of soft yet effective power within the palace walls. Prince William, long a steadfast supporter of his wife, now demonstrates his trust and reliance on Kate's deep insight and sharp acumen more clearly than ever during important meetings. According to close sources, he frequently shows profound respect for her views, especially when they discuss traditional royal matters balanced with modern elements and evolving social trends. This combination not only helps strengthen the royal family's image, but also creates a new rhythm more attuned to the times and public expectations. Kate brings a nuanced perspective that harmonizes the classic values of the palace with the rising expectations of the modern public, a rare and essential balance in today's context. Beyond political and social roles, even her fashion choices contribute to this subtle transformation with a style that is both elegant and contemporary, reflecting the image of a youthful, dynamic royal icon who still upholds traditional dignity. All of this has helped solidify Kate's position as a central figure in the ongoing change and development of the British monarchy. Even Kate's presence on social media platforms has undergone a subtle but deliberate transformation, carefully orchestrated according to the royal family's communication protocols and media strategy. Instead of the highly formal and ceremonial images of the past, the official royal accounts have begun to highlight softer, more intimate, and humanizing moments. Viewers can see short videos capturing Kate's children playing warm smiles at events, or quiet, candid, behind-the-scenes photos, all painting a genuine picture of royal family life that the public can easily relate to. This is by no means accidental or a communication slip. It is the result of a deliberate and meticulous choice aimed at conveying a clear message. Kate is not only a royal icon but also an approachable, warm, and relatable woman. These carefully curated images send signals of friendliness, connectivity, and natural appeal, softening the rigid boundaries between the solemnity of the monarchy and the modern, accessible image that today's public expects. This is how Kate and her team are redefining the royal image in the digital age, creating an effective and emotionally rich communication channel. In April 2025, the question was no longer whether the Middleton family was accepted by the royal family, but rather how much power do they actually hold. In the palace world, where every move is carefully calculated, power never disappears. It only shifts quietly and deliberately. At present, the balance is tipping in Catherine's favor. But is this just a coincidence, or is Kate Middleton quietly pulling the strings from behind the palace walls in a subtle, discreet, and never exposed way? What do you think? Is Kate at the center of power, or is she simply an expert at adapting? Don't forget to leave a comment with number 1 if you sympathize with Queen Camilla, or number 0 if you have a different opinion. Share your thoughts with us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video that appears on your screen to discover more amazing content. A senior royal once made a remark that seemed casual, but sent chills through the palace. You're not the queen. You're just the queen's husband. Short and sharp like a blade, the comment revealed an undercurrent quietly rippling through the halls of Buckingham Palace. Not long after another shocking event shook the monarchy, Prince William made a move so unexpected it brought King Charles and Queen Camilla to tears. No one saw it coming, a moment that sent tremors through the heart of the British monarchy. What drove the heir to the throne to make such a bold choice? And how could a single act be powerful enough to shake the very foundation of royal authority? If you find this story intriguing, drop a comment with the number 1, if not, comment 0. Don't forget to like, share this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Now let's dive into the story. It all began on what seemed like a perfectly ordinary morning in London. The weather was pleasant, the sunlight gentle, and the gates of Buckingham Palace swung open to welcome distinguished guests from across the Commonwealth. The air was filled with the scent of white roses, and the setting was as radiant and flawless as any royal occasion before. The palace, majestic and dignified, stood ready for another grand day, with flags fluttering and photographers eagerly preparing to capture historic moments. Guests chatted softly among themselves, all eagerly anticipating the usual grace and elegance displayed by the royal family. Yet inside those gilded halls and polished marble floors, something felt off. It wasn't the decor. It wasn't the guest list. It was the air itself, tense, unusually quiet, carrying the unmistakable weight of change. Palace staff moved briskly, their eyes subtly tracking one person, Prince William. He had arrived with an unusual request, one that wasn't on the schedule, one no one had anticipated, and one whose consequences no one could yet imagine. William didn't want to speak with his father, King Charles, or with Queen Camilla. He asked only to speak alone. According to aides, William insisted it would be just a few words, nothing formal. But anyone familiar with royal protocol knows in a high-level royal ceremony there's no such thing as just a few words. Every speech is meticulously vetted. Any break from script carries weight and deep meaning. William's request to stand alone unscripted was a powerful symbolic act, one without precedent. As Prince William stepped toward the throne, the entire hall fell into absolute silence. Palace staff, usually masters at masking emotion behind composed expressions, could no longer hide their unease. William appeared calm, but it was exactly that calmness that made people anxious. In his eyes, resolve. His posture, tone, presence, it all echoed someone unforgettable, Princess Diana. A woman who once stood before the monarchy with a heart full of truth, strength, and fearless honesty. In that moment, it felt as though William had inherited not just her legacy, but her independent spirit, the very essence of the mother he deeply admired. And then he began to speak. There was no excitement or anger. His voice was gentle, calm, yet every word carried a special weight, like a soft storm, quietly sweeping through every corner of the room. He started by recalling the long history of the crown, its traditions, honor, and the responsibilities tied to it. The stories of glorious past were told as a reminder to everyone of the profound meaning behind this symbol. However, shortly after, his tone shifted to a new, far more important topic: change. But this was not some distant, abstract change in the future. It was a concrete, practical transformation that could be felt and seen right now. He affirmed that the crown cannot stand above the people. It must walk with them, stand beside them, not just in ceremonies, but in every meaningful action and decision. Next, he made a surprising announcement that brought a solemn atmosphere to the room like never before. Prince William revealed a new plan for the royal family, emphasizing greater cooperation and shared responsibility among its members. He announced that Princess Anne, Prince Edward, along with his wife Catherine, would take on more duties, becoming more deeply involved in leadership and representation. The traditional system, which had concentrated power in one person, was gradually shifting toward a more collective, flexible, and modern model. But this change was not limited to just redistributing power. William also officially stepped into a new role with the support and approval of King Charles. He would begin taking on more significant public duties. While not formally titled as a regent, his role would essentially carry the functions and authority of one. He would represent the crown in important meetings with international leaders, visit communities across the kingdom, and make decisions in the public eye. He was no longer just a prince in title. He was transforming into a true leader with clear power and responsibility. The change unfolded in a quiet atmosphere, but hit like a major shock that demanded everyone's attention. Some in the room were puzzled by the sudden announcement, while others felt a sense of relief that necessary reforms had finally begun. Yet most were undeniably surprised by the unexpected declaration, especially since it was made on a significant day and in a completely unannounced manner. In the end, the room fell into an eerie silence. What stood out most of all was that not a single mention of Camilla was made throughout the entire event. That spoke volumes without a single word. Camilla was clearly excluded from the new plan and this shifting role. Whether it was her own decision or William's, the message lingered like a silent shadow hanging heavy in the air. After the speech, instead of applause, the audience chose silence, quietly absorbing the profound message. Long-standing customs and traditions are being questioned not through protests or loud rebellions, but by a prince with a confident and decisive attitude asserting his authority within the very palace where he was born. The media has dubbed this a bold, silent act with profound historical significance. Yet inside the gilded walls of the palace, it is seen merely as a slow, necessary transition. The royal family, known for its meticulous caution in decision-making, is like a massive ship slowly changing course on the deep sea, every move carefully weighed. Prince William's action today marks the first step in a long journey to transform the workings of this ancient institution, carrying new hopes for greater closeness, transparency, and connection with the people. However, in his speech, Prince William pushed things in a new direction, not abandoning tradition, but embracing a more flexible version that allows outside influences to impact the monarchy. Perhaps this is the path to preserving the institution's existence, not by standing above, but by moving closer to the people. The clear absence of Camilla in the speech added a tense undercurrent to the atmosphere. At first, the royal hall was filled with excitement and a palpable sense of change spreading throughout. Prince William shared an ambitious vision for a new era, a modern monarchy capable of adapting and thriving in a turbulent world. His speech was full of confidence with a clear focus and ideas aimed at fostering deeper connections with the public. But for many observers, the most striking detail was the silence surrounding one key figure, Camilla. Camilla, who has stood by King Charles for many years, always appearing at public events and formal ceremonies as a supportive partner by the king's side, was noticeably absent from William's vision for the future. She seemed overlooked and ignored. At first, Camilla sat upright, appearing attentive and composed, but as time passed, signs of restlessness became clear on her face. She clenched the program tightly on her lap. Her eyes darted around quickly, her breathing grew shallow, and her complexion turned pale. Without a word, she suddenly collapsed forward and fell silently. Medical staff quickly rushed in. King Charles stood up, his voice trembling as he called out Camilla's name in worry. Everyone in the room was stunned. Cameras continued to capture every tense moment. Though there was no physical chaos, the atmosphere became suffocating, filled with panic. The future queen had to be urgently escorted out on this momentous day, an event originally planned as a solemn and symbolic ceremony for the monarchy.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
Phones kept ringing non-stop, and the press corps grew increasingly tense. What was supposed to be a peaceful and momentous day suddenly spiraled into uncontrollable chaos. In a private room, royal advisors were engaged in heated discussions, debating endlessly. Everyone was puzzled, unable to understand why Camilla had been excluded from the future that Prince William had just outlined. King Charles, already frail, looked shocked and somewhat stunned by these unexpected developments. However, within the royal circle, many harbored suspicions. Rumors began to spread rapidly. Some believed Charles had been warned about his son's intentions, but perhaps never thought William would actually carry out the plan. Yet the truth unfolded exactly as it had. Now, the royal family faces not only pressure from public opinion, but also deep internal conflicts to resolve. Did William intentionally exclude Camilla? Was it an accidental mistake or a deliberate decision? Some close to the royal circle believe it was a smart, strategic move meant to send a clear message. However, many others see it as a cold, disrespectful, even ruthless act. What everyone agrees on is that this event has created a massive impact. Camilla was not only absent from the important speech, but was also almost completely pushed out of the future William envisions. The immediate consequence is evident in the cracks appearing on the once flawless facade of the palace. This is not just a matter of public image, but a sign of deep divisions within the royal family itself. On one side are those loyal to King Charles and Camilla, and on the other supporters of William and his new vision. The factions remain undefined, but the gap between them is growing increasingly clear. Amid all this turmoil stands a woman who once held a significant place in the royal family, now seemingly losing her influence and importance. Camilla's collapse was not seen by those close to her as merely a medical emergency. They believed the cause ran deeper than just stress. It was a profound inner pain. Hearing the speech and realizing she no longer belonged in the future that William was shaping caused her silent, unbearable anguish, though it went unspoken. This emotional pain didn't always manifest loudly or dramatically. Sometimes it lived quietly in the shadows of still somber moments. Camilla's sudden collapse and the silence that followed vividly reflected the deep inner turmoil she was experiencing. Meanwhile, Prince William remained completely calm, showing no sign of hesitation or doubt. He continued to pursue his plan with unwavering determination, as if everything were unfolding normally, demonstrating remarkable inner strength and adaptability. Though there is still hope for the future of the monarchy, many unanswered questions hang heavily in the air. Everyone wonders about the depth of division within the royal family, the next steps to be taken, and whether the Queen will choose to step down voluntarily or be forced from the throne. The palace may remain silent, offering no explanation, but the image of Camilla leaving the event has been etched deeply in many minds. Most striking of all is the driving force behind William's boldness. What are his true intentions? Prince William did not make this decision impulsively or emotionally. It is the result of a long, quiet, meticulous, and patient process of reflection. There are signs of profound change happening behind the scenes, guided by the most important influence in his life, Princess Diana, even though she is no longer present. Diana had a tremendous impact on William's life, shaping his behavior, communication style, and the values he upholds. She instilled in him compassion, empathy, and the importance of seeing each person beyond their royal title. Those lessons have always remained in William's mind, shaping every decision he makes. As the monarchy faces significant changes, it's clear that William is striving to honor Diana's legacy by bringing those values back to the heart of the kingdom. He has spent years observing and realizing that tradition sometimes overshadows clarity and reason. He has witnessed many opportunities missed due to rigidity in ceremony and recognized the growing gap between the royal family and the people they serve. When his father, King Charles, faced health issues, William understood the importance of time and saw this as a chance to make a difference. Not content with merely moving forward, William strives to make real progress. He refuses to be trapped in a system just because it has always been that way. William desires genuine change, a monarchy that truly reflects the modern world rather than outdated values. Achieving this requires bold and decisive decisions. One such choice is stripping power from those he believes no longer align with his vision, including Queen Camilla. This decision may seem shocking and harsh to many, but for William, it is necessary to protect the reputation and future of the crown. Camilla has shared that her journey to acceptance within the royal family was a long and challenging one. It took her over 20 years to gain official recognition. When she married Charles, she was not warmly welcomed. In fact, many opposed her presence in the royal family. Despite that, Camilla remained persistent and continually proved herself. Over time, public opinion began to shift and people started to warm up to her. She gradually secured her place within the royal family. When Charles ascended the throne, Camilla stood by his side as queen consort, feeling as though she had conquered what once seemed impossible. However, everything changed dramatically when William excluded her from his vision for the future of the monarchy. It felt as if all her persistent efforts and years of building her position suddenly vanished into thin air. It wasn't just a feeling of abandonment, but also a sense of disdain, even from the very family she had been loyal to all along. All her hard work seemed erased in one silent, painful moment. Even behind the palace walls, the impact of the event was profound. When Camilla collapsed after William's speech, many assumed it was simply due to stress and pressure. But those familiar with the royal family believed it was a much deeper pain. She had spent countless years trying to find her place within the monarchy, enduring rumors, harsh criticism, and relentless comparisons with other members. And just when she thought she had finally succeeded, she was coldly pushed aside. This happened quietly, but it marked her complete removal from her role and position within the family. However, not everyone in the public agrees with this decision. Some believe Camilla should have been sidelined much earlier, citing unresolved issues from the past. Others feel sympathy for her, believing she doesn't deserve to be pushed to the sidelines after so many years of effort and contribution. No matter what the public opinion is, one thing is clear: she is no longer considered in any future plans. This raises a bigger question: if Camilla is no longer in focus, what does that mean for King Charles? Is he still holding the reins of the monarchy, or has someone else taken his place? Charles has always yearned to uphold the monarchy he waited so long to lead. When he finally ascended the throne, he had his own vision for its future. However, health issues have created instability in his leadership. Meanwhile, William's increasingly prominent role has sparked speculation about who truly holds the reins of power. It feels like William is quietly but decisively carrying out significant changes that cannot be ignored. William envisions a monarchy that is more closely connected to the people, one that listens and operates with greater transparency in all its actions. He wants to build a monarchy that fits the modern era, not just one that preserves the past. However, this path is not easy, as it comes with many challenges and risks. Drawing inspiration from his mother's principles, William may unintentionally overlook the wishes and expectations of his father. This could create a monarchy that looks modern but feels alienating to some parts of society. It's hard to strike a balance between honoring tradition and embracing the progress of the times. And in the middle of it all is a family with a full range of experiences, love-loss conflict, and efforts to heal. It's a family that not only maintains titles and rituals, but also carries deep emotional wounds. The changes underway come with serious consequences, and the big question is, who will bear the burden of those consequences? Change in the royal family doesn't happen overnight, but when it does, the price paid is often heavier than the crown on the head. As a king without absolute command, King Charles has lived a tightly controlled life since childhood. From a young age, he was taught how to dress, how to speak, and how to find his place in society. His life revolved more around fulfilling duties than making an impression or creating major change. He wasn't taught to shock the world, but to protect it. He was expected to be a symbol of stability. He followed all the rules, walked the royal path, and ultimately ascended to the throne that was destined for him. However, now that he has achieved everything that was assured to him, something feels off. A significant change is underway, and it seems no one, not even the king himself, can fully hold the reins anymore. The royal family, once running smoothly without any issues, is no longer the same. Recently, issues have arisen, and tensions have become increasingly apparent. King Charles is at the center of it all, trying to maintain control of his throne as his power begins to wane. When Prince William started speaking, there was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. His words carried weight even though he didn't raise his voice or resort to theatrics. Every word he spoke was like a gentle yet powerful call for change. While the king remains the official leader, it's clear that William has emerged as the true leader in the room. He doesn't seek attention but confidently accepts it, and no one tries to stop him. Advisors inside the palace began whispering among themselves. Some believe Charles approved of the speech, while others say he was surprised by it. These conflicting opinions only add to the confusion. People wonder why the king didn't speak up if he was truly in control, or what that means for the monarchy if he isn't. The stability once felt now seems fragile, and then everything begins to crumble. Queen Camilla's collapse isn't just a health concern, it represents something much bigger. Throughout her time with Charles, she remained steadfast and composed, despite facing the world's judgment. She endured years of intense media scrutiny and criticism. However, on that day, something inside her shattered. The silence that filled the room when she collapsed forward was deafening. That moment wasn't just a quiet pause, it symbolized the accumulated tension within her. It reflected the deep wounds she carried amid the changes in the royal family. She had once been an important part of the family, but now it seemed she was gradually being pushed to the sidelines. The changes William is leading are not just about power or roles, but also about values and vision. William envisions a modern monarchy that is more connected to the public and more open to the world today. However, this also means altering the old power structures and abandoning some long-standing traditions. This has led to clear divisions within the royal family and among public opinion. Many support innovation and adapting to the times, while others mourn the loss of traditional values and worry about losing their identity. Amid it all, Camilla seems to be the one suffering the most. While medical experts attribute Camilla's collapse to stress, those within the palace understand a deeper truth. It's not simply a temporary pressure or physical exhaustion, it's a broken heart, a massive burden built up over many years combined with suppressed emotions that erupted in a brief moment. Camilla is not just the wife of a queen, she also represents a traditional royal system, an outdated system that has lasted for a long time, but is gradually becoming incompatible with the future. Her collapse was like the final chapter in a royal history story. It happened suddenly, without any official acknowledgement or ceremony, just a raw, immediate reaction. Almost instantly, videos of the incident spread rapidly across social media. Hashtags about the event became trending topics, drawing widespread public attention. People didn't just witness the fall of a powerful woman. They saw the fading symbol of a monarchy gradually losing its place in the hearts of the people. Public reactions were mixed. Some felt sadness and regret over this collapse, while many others saw it as a sign that change is inevitable and necessary. The monarchy is no longer just a traditional custom, but has become a deeply divisive issue. Many are questioning whether Prince William's calm and cautious ascent is the answer for the future. Inside the palace, things began to grow much colder. Camilla's schedule suddenly disappeared entirely. Events she once attended were quietly canceled with no explanations or public announcements. A silence settled over everything, no more forced smiles or sympathetic glances. Camilla, once a prominent and vocal royal figure, became invisible within just a few days. The staff who once supported and protected her gradually began to distance themselves. However, this was not personal cruelty, but a calculated move. It seemed the palace was quietly turning a new page, a different future, but no one officially spoke out or explained it to the public. The transfer of power happened silently and discreetly, yet there was no denying it was causing profound upheaval. However, as one person steps back, another moves forward. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, doesn't need an official speech or to forcefully put herself in the spotlight. Her mere presence is enough to create a sense of calm and stability for those around her. While many other royal members appear worried and unsettled, Catherine remains remarkably composed and confident. All eyes are on her not because she seeks attention, but because she has become the symbol of the future that many hope for the monarchy. She embodies modernity, stability, and a confident demeanor completely contrasting the chaos and collapse around her. It is precisely this that changes many people's perspectives on the palace and the support for King Charles. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep exploring, don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on other exciting videos. Now let's continue the story together. Gradually, doubts began to arise about King Charles's ability to maintain his power, not because he was failing or weak, but simply because he ascended the throne too late at a time when social changes and generational shifts were happening rapidly. This delay created a wide gap between him and the public's expectations, causing real power to gradually shift to the next generation. And now, just as Prince William feels comfortable in his new position, calls for even deeper changes begin to emerge. For King Charles, this is not merely about losing an authoritative role within the royal family. It is also the loss of control over the very family he has always tried to protect. Witnessing Camilla's breakdown was not only a difficult moment for the public, but also felt like a deeply personal loss for him. William's bold move to take the lead without facing any resistance within the palace is not just a calculated strategic step. It is also a moment filled with sorrow and deep reflection. Charles always hoped his son would eventually take the throne, but he never imagined it would happen so quickly. While he still feels somewhat new in his own role, the inner chambers of power in the palace are now filled with uncertainty and division rather than the unity they once had. Some royal family members and advisors believe that Charles should assert his authority by demonstrating clearer strength. On the other hand, many think it's better to let the transition happen smoothly, gently, and without upheaval. However, the truth lies somewhere between these two extremes. The monarchy is not collapsing, but it is undergoing a quiet evolution. There are no scandals or open power struggles, only subtle changes unfolding behind the scenes. Important decisions are made behind closed doors, with no official announcements or press releases. The transfer of power takes place slowly and subtly, yet inevitably. Still, King Charles remains the official monarch, wearing the crown of authority, but now he must navigate a palace where his voice is no longer the only sound that echoes. Whispers and covert influences are growing stronger, sometimes even outweighing his commands. The future of the monarchy is not greeted with excitement or grand declarations, but through steady and irreversible progress. The transition to a new generation of monarchs has become inevitable. The focus now is on how and when this change will be completed. In this period of instability and transition where tradition clashes with progress, the monarchy is shaped not by official announcements, but by symbolic events. For example, the sudden collapse of Camilla Williams' calm yet decisive leadership and the striking presence of Catherine, Princess of Wales. Charles, torn between his duty to preserve tradition and the need to adapt to the new era, stands on the sidelines observing everything unfold. He realizes that even a powerful king cannot fully control this process of change. The question arises, what happens when a king finally ascends the throne, but the kingdom he rules no longer awaits him? In 2025, a surprising moment changed many people's perception of the British monarchy. The event took place during a royal ceremony at Buckingham Palace, which was expected to be grand and peaceful. However, Queen Camilla, who usually appeared calm and confident, suddenly fainted in front of a large audience and television cameras. Social media immediately exploded without waiting for any official confirmation from the palace or authorities. Videos of the incident quickly spread across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. On Twitter, people shared their thoughts, comments, and created trending hashtags. TikTok saw a flood of creatively edited videos from the moment Camilla fell to the confident speech Prince William gave shortly afterward. YouTube channels turned the event into breaking news, featuring eye-catching thumbnails with bold text and shocked expressions to attract viewers. The world didn't just watch, it formed divided opinions, asked questions, and responded passionately. The incident was not merely a health concern, but carried deep emotions connected to past stories and events within the royal family. Camilla has faced many challenges over the years: rumors, intense media scrutiny, and even harsh opposition. Many believe her collapse was the inevitable result of carrying a heavy psychological burden for too long. They see it as a tragedy, a moment reflecting a woman who had endured immense pressure for many years. However, not everyone views the situation the same way. Some see it not only as Camilla's personal failure, but also as a symbol of a deeper, more profound change. According to them, the monarchy is stagnant, clinging to outdated traditions and powers. Camilla's collapse is seen as a sign marking the beginning of a new era, more modern and better suited to today's world. V2. A standout tweet perfectly captured this sentiment. Diana paved the way for Catherine to shine. Camilla's incident became a turning point, leading to significant changes within the royal family. This tweet was quickly shared by thousands, spreading into a powerful and inspiring message. People began openly taking sides, especially the younger generation. They supported Prince William and Princess Catherine, seeing them as symbols of sincerity and approachability, a stark contrast to the distant image of the monarchy in the past. In their eyes, William and Catherine represent a new future, strong yet compassionate, blending royal tradition with modern human values. However, the older generation holds a different perspective. They are not ready to move past the past and still believe that the monarchy symbolizes something steadfast and solemn. They worry that this moment signals the loss of those values. The rapid pace of change makes long-established customs seem like they are disappearing. Inside the palace walls, the tension is even more intense. What was supposed to be a peaceful event suddenly turned into a public emergency. Staff whisper, strategize, and debate endlessly. They wonder whether to issue an official statement to clarify the situation or prioritize protecting Camilla's privacy to soothe the public. Every decision in this situation was a risky choice, yet nothing remains a secret for long. Media outlets quickly published articles with eye-catching headlines like "The Queen's Collapse," "The Rise of the Prince," or "The End of an Era." This led a global audience not only to observe but also to analyze the situation more deeply. People around the world began exploring topics such as authority-power transition and what was to come. While Camilla attracted attention, another figure, Catherine, quietly stepped into the spotlight. She didn't speak publicly or seek attention, but many people noticed her presence. People saw her beside William, confident and graceful in her quiet presence. Catherine had no intention of becoming a leader, but she naturally took on that role. Without saying a word, she became memorable, strong, yet gentle calm amid the chaos. Her influence wasn't flashy, but carried great power. The day began like many other royal events, filled with ceremony, pride, and tradition. However, by the end of the day, the atmosphere seemed to have shifted. People were no longer just curious about Camilla's health, but were also thinking about the future of the monarchy. The answer remains unclear, but recent events reveal that becoming a monarch is not just about being born into royalty or following tradition. It's also about building connections, being present, and possessing a silent power that doesn't require a crown to be acknowledged. When one falls, the rise of another becomes evident. In the ensuing silence, a new chapter begins, one that may change the monarchy forever. Catherine is the one stepping forward. During the royal family's turbulent times, Princess Catherine stood out like a beacon of calm and leadership. Despite the tensions and swirling rumors, she remained graceful and composed at an important charity event. Dressed in royal blue, she spoke softly with a gentle voice, emphasizing unity and looking toward the future. Her presence served as a reminder of the values that truly matter during difficult times. Although the venue wasn't grand, the impact she made was profound. With sincere and warm words, she touched the hearts of people across the country with just a few sentences. In a short time, she brought a sense of comfort and stability to the public. She offered no criticism, made no grand promises, and gave no lengthy explanations. Instead, her calm demeanor and steady attitude spoke volumes. She simply stood there as a reminder that even in times of uncertainty, a solid foundation still exists. The public, yearning for authenticity, took notice and felt something they hadn't in a long time: hope. Her speech quickly sparked widespread discussion across social media, with many expressing admiration through views, shares, and comments. She was praised as the calm cornerstone of the royal family, and many believed this was the defining moment when she truly stepped into her role. Not only is she seen as the future queen, but also as the emotional center of the monarchy. Without fanfare or haste, her quiet presence made a powerful impact. However, inside the palace, nothing was calm. The atmosphere was tense. An organization that once ran smoothly had become divided, uncertain, and filled with fear. Decision-making grew increasingly sluggish. Meetings stretched late into the night, and longtime allies began whispering in secret. Power was slowly shifting, but no one wanted to acknowledge it openly. King Charles grew increasingly weary as his health declined, while Queen Camilla was almost absent from the public eye. Though he tried to appear cheerful during his appearances, those close to him could see he was struggling under the pressure. The crown still rested on his head, but power was slowly slipping from his grasp. Traditionalists wanted everything to remain as it was, while a new faction looked to Prince William with hopes for change. The division extended beyond politics, seeping into the personal relationships within the palace. Some longtime aides were wary of the monarchy's rapid modernization, while those close to William and Catherine supported bold, immediate reforms. Many remained silent, watching carefully to see which side would prevail. Queen Camilla, once a regular presence beside King Charles, had now all but vanished from public view. She canceled her entire schedule and withdrew from all public appearances. The palace remained tight-lipped about the change, with only quiet rumors suggesting she was taking time to rest and recover. However, it was clear that she was no longer as present as she once was. Queen Camilla had quietly stepped back, leaving a void that was being filled not by Charles, but by Catherine. Meanwhile, Prince William was far from idle. He had taken on more responsibilities, attended more meetings, spoken out more frequently, and increased his public appearances. William became involved in international matters, met with world leaders, and made critical decisions. But he wasn't doing it alone. Catherine was always by his side, offering support and providing stability. Together, they demonstrated what the next generation of royalty could look like, not just ceremonial, but truly active and engaged. This wasn't about titles or official ceremonies, it was about real action. William and Catherine were leading. Though not formally declared, it was clear to everyone. The public saw it, royal staff felt it, and even those loyal to King Charles couldn't deny it. While the king remained, the face of the monarchy power had begun shifting rapidly. Catherine's approach made her stand out. She didn't seek attention or demand the spotlight. Instead of noise, she quietly rose to the highest ranks through patience and steady progress.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
That calm demeanor was her true strength. At a time when the public needed reassurance, Catherine became the figure they trusted. Many began to see that this wasn't just the story of a future queen, it was the sign of a larger transformation. The monarchy was quietly evolving without the need for any official announcement. And Catherine was leading that change. Investigations and discussions began to surface. The public shifted from curiosity to firm belief that a transfer of power was underway not through a traditional coronation, but through subtle gestures and knowing glances. As the sun set behind the palace, while the outside world buzzed with rumors and headlines, something had shifted within those walls. The future had arrived not with a bang, but with clarity, and it looked different. Perhaps the future of the monarchy isn't unfolding with grand displays, but with quiet grace and steady leadership. Could it be that the future of the monarchy is already underway, not with a crown, but with quiet dignity and a steady hand? A crown is passing on. Changes are happening at Buckingham Palace, but they are neither loud nor dramatic. There are no scandals or family conflicts splashed across the headlines, yet a subtle transformation is underway. The British monarchy, renowned for its strong traditions, is beginning to evolve quietly and gradually, not by choice, but by necessity. For years, the royal family has represented stability. The king and queen held power from a distance. Despite wars, economic downturns, and shifting public opinions, the crown remained unchanged. That is its strength. It stays constant while everything else changes. But now everything is different. The foundation of the palace is beginning to shift not out of anger or fear, but from a sense of acceptance. The world has evolved, and the monarchy must adapt as well. This new feeling didn't appear suddenly. It came subtly, like a gentle whisper. It was clearly reflected in Prince William's recent speech. Though his words seemed polite and refined, there was a deeper meaning if you listened closely. Instead of focusing on preserving the past, he emphasized the need for progress. He wasn't seeking approval, but confidently stepping into the role destined for him. The core message was clear: traditional methods are no longer enough. People are craving authenticity and genuine human connection. This message is conveyed not only in William's speeches, but also through his everyday actions. He attends important meetings representing the monarchy with both strength and passion. William doesn't cling to the past. Instead, he embraces new ways. His approach feels sincere and unforced. Though he hasn't yet worn the crown, he carries its weight gracefully. However, he is not alone on this journey. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, walks beside him. She exudes calmness, thoughtfulness, and grace without appearing distant.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
V5. Her presence brings comfort to everyone. Instead of being a distant figure behind barriers or waving from balconies, she connects with people through friendly smiles, gentle words, and a serene demeanor. She adds a fresh touch to the royal family's image, making it more approachable and compassionate. Together, William and Kate showcase a different side of royalty, relatable and trustworthy, rather than distant and cold. Meanwhile, the older generation is beginning to step back. King Charles remains present and respected, but he no longer speaks out as much as before. He still holds a leadership role, but more from behind the scenes. Camilla, once the center of attention, now seems more at ease keeping her distance. This change isn't negative or disheartening. It's simply a natural progression. Change doesn't always happen suddenly. Sometimes it's a gradual shift, like the changing of the seasons. The royal family is evolving. It's no longer just about following old traditions and strict roles. Now it's about creating connections and being authentic in a world that demands more. Prince William understands this clearly. He doesn't imitate his father or his grandmother. Instead, he is striving to embody a kind of royalty that people today can relate to, honest, up-to-date, and emotionally aware of what's happening in the world. You can notice the change in the small things. The way people talk about the monarchy now is different. You see it in what's written in the newspapers and online. Younger generations feel closer to and more invested in the monarchy. Charles still wears the crown, but the focus is no longer solely on him. All eyes have shifted to William and Kate. Now they are the center of attention and leading the way. This is not the end of the monarchy, but it marks the close of an old era and the beginning of something new. It symbolizes a fresh start, filled with hope, kindness, and humanity. Although many may never enter the palace, the warmth and positivity inside are beginning to be felt through William and Kate. This change has already begun even without an official announcement. Amid silence and ceremony, a quiet evolution is unfolding within one of Britain's most closely guarded institutions. While the new sovereign has arrived, Charles remains king with the crown upon his head. The ceremony has taken place, and the oath has been sworn as the world watches him assume his new role. Yet a slow and steady shift is underway. By paying attention to the subtle shifts in mood and tone, it becomes clear Prince William is taking on the leadership role. Although he does not hold the title of king in name in the eyes of the international public, William is the true bearer of the British monarchy's crown. There is no coronation ceremony, no official declaration, but every action, every appearance, every speech speaks clearly William has stepped forward, and no one can stop it. At first, it was all just small signs, a few extra speeches. A subtle shift in media focused the increasing presence of William and Catherine at events. Then came the bigger changes. Camilla disappeared from the public eye. The place beside Charles where a queen would usually stand was left empty, and the ones filling that space, none other than William and Catherine. They were not there just for ceremony. They were working, they were acting, they were leading. Charles is still there. He still signs documents, still appears at important events. But the spotlight has shifted away from him. The public now listens to someone else, someone more admired, someone more trusted. And that someone is William. His name now resonates in international meetings. World leaders don't just greet him out of protocol, they turn to him for genuine negotiations. And when he speaks, the world listens. The public has changed too. They respect Charles, but they adore William. They admire his calmness and quiet steadfastness. They see in him a true leader, modern, adaptable, yet never losing the royal identity. And Catherine. She is not just a companion. She is a pillar, a reflection of elegance paired with action. With every appearance, Catherine makes the monarchy feel closer, more authentic. But not everyone welcomes this change. Some within the inner circle call it a silent transfer of power unauthorized, a challenge to the traditional order. They fear that if the rules can be bent, eventually they might be broken entirely. But whether you agree or not, the undeniable truth is this: everything has changed. The public's gaze no longer fixates on the throne. Instead, it turns toward the one who is truly moving forward. William doesn't need a crown to lead. Catherine doesn't need the title of queen to comfort millions of hearts. The future of the monarchy may not begin with a grand coronation, but with quiet gestures, steadfast actions, and unassuming leadership. Could William be quietly reshaping the monarchy right before our eyes? Is the crown being passed on not through ceremony, but through the trust of millions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our in-depth analyses coming up. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you in the next videos. Welcome to the channel. Today we will explore a story that is shaking the British royal family. Prince William's shocking actions left King Charles and Queen Camilla in tears. What made the heir to the throne make a decision that left the entire royal family in tears? What is happening behind the palace doors? Let's uncover this mystery and discover the truth that is stirring up the whole of England. Do you think Prince William's shocking actions were motivated by responsibility or personal feelings? If you lean towards responsibility, leave a comment with 1. If you believe it was an emotional decision, leave a comment with 0. Don't forget to watch the whole video and subscribe to the channel to support me in the next royal videos. It began like any other royal event. Flags were flying, the air was solemn and dignified. Buckingham Palace was decked out in its finest. Rows of white roses lined the courtyard, and the British flag flew high overhead. Inside, dignitaries from across the Commonwealth filled the great hall with polite, hushed chatter. Cameras clicked softly. Royal aides moved briskly. The entire event was designed to celebrate continuity and stability. But something was wrong. Prince William had made an unusual request to speak alone. Not to King Charles, not to Camilla, just himself. A short speech, they said. Nothing important. But the royals were not convinced. In a world where every moment is scripted, every word pre-approved, William's monopolization of the limelight was striking. As he took his place near the throne, aides held their breath. They had seen that look before, the look his mother wore when she went off script. Calm, determined, unshakable. And they were right to worry. Because that moment under the gilded ceiling of Buckingham Palace wasn't just another photo shoot. It was the beginning of something no one expected. The end of business as usual. A royal aide is said to have whispered, "Something's about to change." You can feel it. And they could, because what happened next would send the monarchy reeling. When Prince William began to speak, his voice was calm, almost too calm. There were no big outbursts, no dramatic gestures, but his words carried weight. In a moment, it was clear. This was not a speech. It was a statement. He spoke of legacy, but he also spoke of change of the crown, walking among the people, not just hovering over them. Then came the twist. William announced the beginning of a new royal framework, one built on transparency, service, and shared leadership. In a move that stunned the room, he announced the creation of a modern advisory council where Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, would take on expanded roles in official royal duties that were not just symbolic but also structural. This move not only shakes up tradition, but also marks an unprecedented turn in the history of the British royal family. The devolution of power and empowerment of more members of the royal family is seen as an approach to modernizing the institution, aiming to connect more deeply with the public and increase efficiency in carrying out duties. Many believe that this is an essential step to protect and maintain the long-term existence of the monarchy in the 21st century. At the end of the ceremony, Prince William emphasized that this change was not just about the way things were done, but also about the new spirit of the royal family, humility, responsibility, and dedication to serving the people. In the eyes of many, this was not just a political statement, but also a commitment to a different future, where the royal family is not just a symbol, but a positive force close to and responsible for modern society. The event marked a new chapter full of hope and challenge for the British royal family. And then the real shock came. With the king's consent, William would begin his role as deputy regent. He didn't call it that, but the message was clear. William would lead many of the crown's day-to-day public functions, both domestic and international, deputizing for King Charles on important missions. It was quiet, but revolutionary, one royal commentator later remarked. It was a subtle but far-reaching transfer of power for the future of the monarchy. Yet amid all the ambitious announcements and plans, one name was conspicuously missing: Camilla, Queen Consort. Her absence from all the mentions, no new title, No expanded duties, not even a word of thanks left everyone surprised. That silence spoke louder than any words could, leaving many wondering what role Camilla will actually play in the near future of the royal family. While William passionately presented his vision of a modern, transparent, and more accessible monarchy, Camilla's absence left an emotional void. Observers noted that her expression changed dramatically from minute to minute. At first, Camilla sat still, listening intently, trying to remain calm during this momentous turn of events. But then her eyes began to flutter, a sign of discomfort and anxiety. Camilla's hands clenched the ceremony program tightly in her lap, showing tension and anxiety. She shifted in her seat, trying to maintain a calm appearance, but could not completely hide her pain and disappointment. Her normally strong face began to pale, as if those unspoken words had struck a chord. Camilla's emotions exploded as she could no longer contain herself, collapsing at that momentous moment. Do you think Prince William's decision will change the future of the British royal family? If you think yes, leave the number 2, and if you doubt no, comment the number 5. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next hot updates. This is not simply a transition of power, but a sign of profound changes within the royal family. The tensions between generations and the roles of members of the royal family are clearly exposed. This moment will be remembered as a challenging turning point, when tradition meets change, and each must find a new place in the next journey of the British monarchy. It was not a dramatic faint, but it was unmistakable. Her body slumped forward. Palace aides rushed to her side. King Charles stood up in alarm, his voice choked on a single word, Camilla. A gasp echoed through the room. Cameras were still rolling, recording every second. Within minutes, paramedics were at her side. She was loaded onto a stretcher and quietly removed. And just like that, the celebration had turned into a crisis. The Queen Consort, removed from the ceremony she had been expected to help lead, now looked like a figure being erased from history in real time. Over the years, Camilla has worked hard to build her image from a public outcast to a recognized Queen Consort. She has stood behind King Charles, supporting him in his royal duties, and gradually winning the hearts of the people. But in a moment, all that hard work seems to have been wiped out. Her exclusion from key parts of the ceremony not only hurt her, but also raised questions about her role in the next reign. Is this a sign that Camilla will not have a place in the new court that William is envisioning? William has long been seen as the ideal heir apparent, calm, modern, and in touch with the public. But his coolness in the ceremony took many by surprise. Many saw him as deliberately sending a message that the new era has no place for old or controversial figures. But it also opened him up to accusations that he is not afraid to hurt loved ones to consolidate power. His unblinking, unwavering stance suggests that he is ready to assume the crown, but on his own terms. King Charles's silence after the ceremony only added to the tension. On the one hand, he is the father of William, the heir to the throne, and the man charged with continuing the dynasty. On the other hand, he is also the husband who has spent years defending Camilla from criticism. In the face of such a symbolic event, his failure to make a clear statement puts the royal family in a difficult position. Is he trying to reconcile the two factions, or is he being forced into a fait accompli, with no choice but to remain silent? The media only sees the glitter of the ceremony, but inside the ancient stone walls of Buckingham Palace, a storm is brewing. Aides and advisors are trying to control the damage, but the nature of this crisis is not simply about image. It is a crisis of trust between the royals, between the old and new generations, and between the palace and the public. If left unaddressed, this rift could usher in a period of instability in which the throne is no longer a symbol of unity, but a battlefield of power struggles. In the days after the ceremony, Camilla largely disappeared from the public scene. No more appearances with King Charles, no more forced smiles for the cameras. Some insiders said she had voluntarily stepped aside to avoid further complications. But observers were not convinced. For someone who had fought to gain an official place in the royal family, this sudden disappearance was uncharacteristic of Camilla. It was more of a silent admission that she had been pushed aside not with words, but with a series of cold actions. From outside the palace, lights remained on and the ceremony continued. But inside, factions were forming. Advisors loyal to King Charles saw William's decision as disrespectful and hasty. Meanwhile, younger aides, many brought in by William and Kate, deemed it a necessary step to save the declining monarchy. The polarization not only paralyzed the royal decision-making apparatus, but also left Charles in a tight spot, caught between the wife he had fought for decades to protect and the son he was preparing to hand over the throne. Once seen as the third wheel that ruined Charles and Diana's iconic marriage, Camilla gradually won over the years with her tenacity, her delicacy, and her modesty. But now it seems as if everything is back to square one. As William redefined royal values according to Diana's standards, Camilla suddenly became a symbol of a past that the public had lost faith in. In this new game, she was not only removed from the center of power, she was redefined no longer the queen consort, but a living memory of a dynasty that William no longer wanted to inherit in its entirety. For Charles, the blow came not from the press or the public, but from his son. Those close to him described him as unusually quiet after the ceremony, refusing to talk about it to anyone, not even Camilla. The fatigue of illness combined with his personal trauma had left him devastated. In his eyes, this was not just a disagreement about the direction of the royal family. It was a rejection by the son he had hoped would continue, not end. Perhaps he was coming to a realization William was not just ascending to the throne, he was also rebuilding the legacy he had worked so hard to preserve. Ultimately, Camilla's fall came not from scandal nor from public outrage, but from the changing structure of the royal family itself. In an institution where titles and roles are defined by recognition, being forgotten is sometimes the cruelest form of expulsion. When William chose to exclude her from his speech, from his vision of the future of the royal family, he needed no further words. Camilla, who had once overcome public opinion, the media, and history to step into the light, was now quietly falling into the shadows. Not because she had lost, but because the rules of the game had changed. For more than 2 decades, Camilla has fought a battle that few saw coming and even fewer expected her to win. From public enemy number 1 to queen consort, her transformation has been nothing short of astonishing. She has endured public scrutiny, private heartache, and constant comparisons to Princess Diana. But through it all, she has stood her ground. This was her moment, or so she thought. Behind the palace gates, Camilla finally stepped into the limelight, standing alongside King Charles, not just as his wife, but as a central figure in the monarchy. Some believe she earned her title through her tenacity and grace. But for others, including Prince William, the title was never truly hers. When William announced his vision for the future of the monarchy and her name was not mentioned, it was more than a snub. It was a clear message. Her time at the center of royal life was over. Camilla climbed the mountain only to have the rug pulled out from under her at the top, said a former royal correspondent. It wasn't just emotional, it was structural. She wasn't just ignored, she was erased, and it hurt. Many now believe that William's speech breakdown was more than just stress or exhaustion. It was the emotional culmination of years of pressure. Camilla had spent so much time trying to fit into the tight mold of the crown, only to find herself on the outside again. With each passing day since William's controversial speech, King Charles seems to be growing more isolated. His closest advisors, once the backbone of his power base, are now divided by their loyalties to two different paths. While some still support Charles's commitment to traditional structures, others have shifted their allegiance to William, who is said to be reading the public mood better. Charles, raised to preserve rather than adapt, is struggling with the very concept of change, especially when it comes from his own son. William didn't need to publicly declare his power, he just had to act, and he did. From the way he framed his speech to the strategic removal of Camilla from the official picture, every step was carefully calculated. Observers called it a soft coup, bloodless without open conflict, but chillingly effective. William not only took over the central voice of the monarchy, he redefined who and what deserved to stand under the symbol of the crown. For Charles, this crisis is not just political or image-based. It is a direct threat to the legacy he has built. From pushing climate initiatives to gradually bringing Camilla into the public light, every step he has taken has been guided by patience and loyalty to traditional values. But now, with Camilla sidelined and his old values questioned, Charles risks becoming the forgotten king in his own reign, an unnecessary bridge between the past and the future. The British monarchy has long been built on a bond of symbolism and trust, but the current crisis has shaken that foundation. The public no longer sees the royal family as a unified entity. They see key figures disappearing without explanation, decisions made without clear consensus. In the eyes of many, this is no longer a royal family. It is an institution struggling for control, gradually eroding the reverence it once held. Camilla's out of sight has become a symbol of a much deeper rift between past and present, between tradition and modernity, between a king and his successor. It shows that the crown is no longer a unified entity of thought and strategy. It is now a mask worn by people with different visions living in the same palace but not the same dream. And the danger is that if those who wear the crown no longer agree on its meaning, the public will stop believing in the symbolic power it once represented. We are witnessing a new chapter for the royal family. But it is not a glamorous beginning. It is a contentious transition, where no one dares to name the change, but everyone feels it. As William quietly establishes a new order, as Charles retreats further into the shadows, and as Camilla fades from the picture, the question is no longer who rules, but what is this monarchy, and how will it survive in the future? Like an ancient castle whose stone walls are slowly cracking, the British royal family will not collapse overnight. It is changing, silently, slowly, and with great risk. There are moments in royal history that are captured on camera, but remembered for their meaning, not their image. Camilla's breakdown was one of them. It wasn't just the sight of the queen consort collapsing that struck a chord with the public. It was what it represented. A system long defined by hierarchy and stability was visibly fraying under emotional pressure. For the first time in recent memory, the monarchy no longer looked composed. It looked fragile. The medical staff later described it as a moment of acute stress. But those in the palace offered a more nuanced view. She didn't just faint. An aide said she broke. Something inside her broke. Camilla, once a symbol of resilience, had become a symbol of a past crumbling in real time. Her collapse echoed something larger. It was a new era that was no longer coming. It was already here. On social media, the footage spread like wildfire. Commentators called it the end of an old generation. And for once, even the most loyal royal supporters were unsure how to defend what had happened. While Charles collapsed and Camilla retreated, Catherine, Princess of Wales, remained silent. But her silence was not passive. On social media, she emerged as a symbol of a new era, elegant but not aloof, modern but not rebellious. She did not speak. She was present. And that was reassuring. For a younger generation, skeptical of the old institution, Catherine was more than just the wife of the heir apparent. She was the embodiment of what they believed the monarchy could be. With Camilla's fall, the media has not just lost a figure, but shifted its focus to a new model. Where Camilla once represented quiet resilience, Catherine represents adaptability in the spotlight. The contrast is stark. Camilla is the old-fashioned royal, ascending to the throne through behind-the-scenes effort and tenacity. Catherine is the face of the future, stepping into the spotlight through transparency, accessibility, and strategy. And the public, especially the young, seems to have made their choice. Social media has become an arena where the monarchy is dissected, analyzed, even redefined. TikToks contrasting a sad Camilla with a serene Catherine's smile have racked up millions of views in a matter of hours. YouTube live streams that once oozed political commentary have now deciphered every glance and nod between William and his wife. This is no longer a royal affair. It is global content and consumed as part of popular culture. The way generations view the monarchy has never been more different. To the young, Camilla is a relic. To the old, she is a symbol of quiet restoration. To William and Catherine, she is part of an era they have no desire to replicate. And this is the greatest danger the monarchy relies on intergenerational bonds to survive. If it loses its ability to speak to both the old and the young, it risks becoming a hollow symbol, revered by one group, ignored by the rest. At Buckingham, confusion was at its peak. Advisors could not decide should they defend Camilla outright or let silence pass as a retreat strategy. But the media gave them no time. Headlines spread like wildfire. News did not wait for confirmation. The public did not need official explanations. They were interpreting every action, every expression, and every absence from Camilla was further evidence of her dismissal. Meanwhile, every photograph of Catherine was seen as a step forward, not just for her, but for the entire dynasty. The palace may not have issued any decrees. King Charles remains head of state. But the feeling in the air is clear. A new era has begun, not with a death or a coronation, but with a quiet but irreversible shift. Camilla has stepped back, perhaps permanently. William now sets the tone, and Catherine, in her quiet steadiness, is becoming the new moral anchor of a modern monarchy. No throne, no declaration, just the right presence in the right place with the right generation. Amidst the chaos, one person remained calm, graceful, and unshaken: Duchess Catherine. Just days after the chaos at Buckingham Palace, she appeared at a small pre-scheduled charity event. There were no grand statements, no heavy gestures, just Catherine standing before the crowd dressed in royal blue, speaking softly and clearly. Her message was simple: the future is about unity serving together. In those 7 words, she did what no press release or palace memo could. She reassured a bewildered public that the monarchy was still standing, still moving forward, still connected, and people were listening. Online, the response was immediate. Clips of her speech went viral. Fans called her the calm anchor of the royal family. Others said she had officially stepped into her destiny not just as a future queen, but as the public heart of the new monarchy. In a system defined by ceremony heraldry and official pronouncements, Catherine's rise was remarkable for its complete lack of need for any of these. She did not need to speak to be heard, nor to use her name to be recognized. It was her calm, her presence, her confident demeanor that made the public begin to see her as someone who would shape the future of the monarchy, not through force, but through standards. As William ushered in change, Catherine was living proof of why it was welcome. Buckingham Palace used to be a symbol of order. Every decision, every message came from a single source, the crown. But now power no longer flows from the top, but through new centers of influence where William and Catherine increasingly shape the royal narrative without the explicit approval of the monarch. A new kind of soft power is emerging not in the hands of the person on the throne, but in the hands of the person the public listens to. And that shift is seriously shaking up a system that thrives on hierarchy. As the days passed without an explanation for Camilla's absence, the atmosphere at the palace grew increasingly tense. Advisors feared that any statement would reignite the controversy, but the silence was telling. For the first time in decades, the palace was facing not just an image crisis, but an identity crisis. Who represented the royal family? Who was running it? And which values were being retained and which were being replaced? No one was sure anymore, not even those inside the ancient stone walls. When a woman can wear a crown without wearing it, when power can be diffused without being declared, the monarchy is entering a new chapter. Catherine does not need a throne to be central. And that makes her more formidable than any other figure in the current royal picture. In an age where image weighs more than ceremony, where sobriety can trump medals, Catherine is more than a modern icon. She is proof that if the monarchy is to survive, it must change in the way she did, gradually, intelligently, and irresistibly. Charles was said to be exhausted, still reeling from Camilla's downfall and the global attention it brought. While he tried to maintain a facade of composure in public, in private, he was struggling to regain control. His power, already limited by health problems, was now overshadowed by William's growing influence. Behind the scenes, 2 factions were forming. One was loyal to Charles and tradition favoring slower, more cautious reform. The other was pro-William, favoring rapid, sweeping modernization. Camilla's absence was not publicized, but it could not be hidden. Once an indispensable companion to King Charles, she was now a name on the royal register. The corridors that once rang with her laughter and footsteps were now silent. Whispers around the palace spoke of a health leave, but no one confirmed it and no one denied it. The general feeling was not of grief, but of acceptance. That a chapter had closed not with scandal, but with a quiet, seemingly planned retreat. There was no ceremony to mark the transition, no coronation, no white smoke. But the shape of power had changed. William was no longer just the heir. He was in control. And Catherine, ever at his side, had become an undeniable political and public force. As they chaired meetings, issued statements, appeared at key events, the royal family operated in their image, not Charles's. The crown remained in place, but its spirit had shifted. A new era had begun without declaration, only action. And yet through the whispers and the late-night conversations, one truth remains. Something bigger is happening. A change that no title or tradition can reverse. Because what was once the quiet rise of a new generation is now looking more and more like a nominal transfer of the throne. And soon everyone, from Parliament to the public, will be asking the same question. The crown is in transition. Over the centuries, the British monarchy has weathered storms, wars, abdication, and scandals. But what's happening now feels different. Not loud, not dramatic, but quietly irreversible. William's speech wasn't a rebellion. It was a signal. A message that the old ways are no longer enough. That royal service is no longer just about tradition. It has to have real meaning, something modern, human, and connected. And perhaps most importantly, it's not a request for permission. It's a statement of direction. As one royal analyst put it, the transformation has begun. The institution just hasn't acknowledged it yet. The British monarchy no longer functions the way it once did. Its values, its roles, and its central figures are being quietly but visibly restructured. Camilla, the woman who had persevered to the top of the royal family for decades, is now a shadowy figure not officially excluded, but no longer included. Whispers of rest, stepping back, recovery circulate through the palace corridors, but no one comes forward to confirm them. And that silence says it all. Her era is over, not by declaration, but by necessity. In this power vacuum, William did not wait for a formal ceremony to step up. He acted as the de facto leader of the royal family, attending international conferences, meeting heads of state, coordinating work with the Commonwealth, and most importantly, reshaping royal priorities according to his own standards. No longer heir in waiting, William had transformed himself into heir in command. At his side, Catherine, elegant, calm, and amiable, was more than just a companion. She was the monarchy's greatest cultural draw for a new generation, a symbol of stability and modernity that shined without a throne. As Charles gradually retreated from the spotlight and Camilla quietly disappeared from public life, the royal spotlight shifted completely. William and Catherine were not just symbols of succession. They were living as if they were. The couple appeared in moments that had previously belonged to the king and queen. They were seen by the public as leaders of a new age, not just because of their bloodline, but because they were relevant to the times, relatable, down to earth, and emotionally intelligent. To younger Britons, less attached to ceremony and tradition, William and Kate embodied a royal family worth living in the 21st century. The question is no longer, will William become king, but is he already king? Legally, no. The crown remains on Charles's head, and all the necessary formalities have been performed. But the burden of monarchy, the responsibilities, the expectations, the presence, has been transferred informally. With every tour, every speech, every public handshake, William is cementing his place as the true representative of the United Kingdom. He is not just preparing for his role, he is living it. Camilla is now a faded symbol of a fading era. No more public events, no more standing next to the king in the affairs of state. No one in the palace has declared her out, but all the signs point to that conclusion. The way she was retired was not a punishment, but the natural consequence of a changing system. A system in which popularity, the power of image, and the ability to shape public opinion are becoming more important than ceremonial rank or bloodline tradition. For William, this is not just a role, it is a mission. He is not overthrowing the system. He is using it as a structure to be reformed. Like his mother, Princess Diana, William chooses to work within the system to change it. And this time, he is not alone. Catherine is the ideal continuation of Diana in a different form, more discreet, but no less effective. They do not just appeal to the public. They also raise expectations of a monarchy that listens, adjusts, and most importantly knows when to turn the page. So while Charles remains king, and may well remain so for many years to come, the truth is this: in the eyes of the world, a new monarch has emerged. No coronation, no incense, no declaration. Just consistency, presence, and conviction. William did not overthrow the throne. He tilted it in his favor. And in an age where prestige is more important than ceremony, where the public has more say than ever, that is how real power is transferred, not by document, but by feeling. William did not wait for his moment to be announced. He created it. And the world, while not yet formally accepting it, nodded. Never before in modern royal history has a reigning monarch been so out of the public eye, while his successor has been more prominent as an unofficial head of state. William and Catherine are constantly present, not just at symbolic events, but in policy discussions, diplomatic engagements, social issues. They don't just represent the monarchy, they run it. And Charles, while still holding the crown, seems increasingly relegated to a ceremonial role, a symbol who no longer has control over reality. The world today is no longer defined by official statements, but by images. And William's image, the calm modern man present with his beloved wife, is the most powerful media machine in the royal family today. Camilla's absence only highlights that. When the public no longer sees a queen standing next to a king, but instead a regal couple on every front, the message is clear: the new symbol does not need to be announced. It is created every day, by cameras, by headlines, and by the trust of the people. The split is not just public, but within the monarchy itself. Many inside, especially those in the generation that has served Charles for so long, feel disoriented. For them, this is not simply a change of strategy, it is a rupture in loyalties. For them, William's decision to shape the royal structure while his father is still alive and reigning is an act of disrespect. But for others, especially the younger generation of palace officials, this is a moment that cannot be put off. The future demands action, and William is the one who is doing it. It was hard to know what Charles was thinking because he didn't speak. He didn't argue, he didn't confirm, he didn't argue. He was just less present. His silence has been interpreted in many ways as a gesture of magnanimity or as a deliberate retreat. But what is clear is that he is letting change take its course even if it doesn't take him with it. For someone who waited his whole life to be king, that can be the most bitter thing of all, to be in charge, but no longer the one leading the way. Still king, but no longer the center. The debate over whether this is progress or betrayal will continue. But what is undeniable is that the British monarchy is being remade from within in an informal but effective process. William and Catherine are not destroying the throne. They are changing the way it is viewed. And in so doing, they are not only touching the hearts of the public, but are questioning the entire institution. Does true power come from the throne, or from the person the public believes deserves it? This is no longer just a story about a family. It is a story about an institution that is transforming before our eyes. And as one commentator so perfectly summed it up, the past has collapsed into a garden of white roses, and from its ruins, a new imperial order has emerged. And that's the whole surprising development of Prince William's shocking action, a turning point that could change the future of the British royal family. Is this the beginning of a new dynasty or just a warning in times of turmoil? Leave your comments below.